Hi, hello, welcome to this video. For a little bit of background to this video, I was at the library and I saw these 3 books, a series, and I thought, wow, I've never seen this before because, I'm really big into books. I'm pretty big into booktube and I've been reading since I was really young, so I feel like I've seen a lot of the YA books or a lot of popular books, but I've never seen these before. And I went online, I did some searching, and no one seems to be talking about it. So I thought, well, why is no one talking about it? So I read the first book, and I know why no one's talking about it. This is bad. It's bad. So it's a beautiful day outside. The sun is shining, which means I'm going to stay inside and scream about books, which is usually what I do. Hi, editing me here. I just want to pop in really quick and say that for this video, I will be reading lines directly from pages that I will put up on the screen. So feel free to pause, read at your own pace, change the playback speed, watch this video however you want to watch it. I just wanted to make sure that you guys had the most context possible for this book because honestly, it would be completely incomprehensible if I didn't. So read at your own pace, skip ahead if you have to. Okay. Back to the video. So I have my notes down here. So if you see me glancing down, I'm just double checking what my words, because I do have a couple screenshots because, oh boy, was there a lot to screenshot. So I'll read you the dust jacket of, this is what I was getting into. 18-year-old Trinity Merrill may be going blind, but she can see and communicate with ghosts and spirits. Her unique gift is a part of a secret so dangerous that she's been in hiding for years in an isolated compound fiercely guarded by wardens, gargoyle shapeshifters who protect humankind from demons. If the demons discover the truth about Trinity, they'll devour her, flesh and bone, to enhance their own powers. When wardens from another clan arrive with disturbing reports that something out there is killing both demons and wardens, Trinity's safe world implodes. Not the least because one of the outsiders is the most annoying and fascinating person she's ever met. Zane has secrets of his own that will upend her whole world yet again. But working together becomes imperative once demons breach the compound and Trinity's secret comes to light. To save her family, and maybe the world, she'll have to put her trust in Zane, but all bets are off as a supernatural war is unleashed. It sounds pretty basic for a YA story, right? Special secret girl has to save the world, and there's this guy who she maybe doesn't get along with, but she has to work with to, save whatever. So I thought, how bad could this possibly be? Well, from the first page, I already had a note to make, and I'm going to read it out to you, and maybe I'll put a couple pages on the screen as I'm reading. And not that this is necessarily bad, right? Clay sat beside me on the couch in his parents' living room. We were alone, and I wasn't quite sure what life choices I'd made to end up with me sitting here beside him. Like all wardens, he was so incredibly bigger than me, even though I was 5'8" and not what one would normally consider short girl. Right off the bat, we kind of have to emphasize how little teensy tiny she is, right? And she's not. She's 5'8", which I completely forgot for this entire book. She never reads as, tall. And maybe that just emphasizes how big the wardens are. Majority of the wardens that we see are all men, and they're so super big, and their wingspans are 10 feet across, and she's so teensy tiny, and she's so delicate. It's this is the first page, right? I'm not trying to read the entire book before I even open it, really. But not a great first start, Clay is a warden that she's kind of maybe has a crush on, she's fooling around with. Actually, before we start, I'll lay down a couple of base characters. So our main character, her name is Trinity, obviously. She's 18 years old, and she's some secret, special, super cool, powerful creature thing that when we find out what she is, it feels both too early in the book and also too late in the book to know, because we keep on emphasizing how special she is. Then we have Misha. Misha is her warden protector. They're bonded. If she dies, he dies. They have this it's one of those bonds in these YA books. So of course Trinity has no parents, so she's living with these 2 men. I think his name is pronounced Terry. It's Thierry. I think it's Terry or Thierry. I'm going to call him Terry because it sounds like Guy Fieri to me, so I can't do that. And the other one is named Matthew. Well, I'd done the kissing. I'd kissed Misha when I was 16, and he'd kissed me back, but then it became really weird because he was like a brother to me, and neither of us were about that kind of life. Plus, things weren't supposed to be like that between Misha and me because of what he was, because of what I was. Page 9. And we're already doing that Cassandra Clare pseudo brother thing, and this comes back, surprisingly. This comes back like twice, which kind of is a running theme in this book, that the author thinks that we don't, like, remember things. This is really apparent in how Trinity emphasizes how super special she is. She keeps on calling herself, like, what I am, the being that I am, the power that inhibits me, and it's like, we get it. Like, honestly, we get it. I understand the thematic tension. We get it, okay? Page 11. Another great start. We get introduced to mating. Warden's mate. That's what it's called. Why is it called that? Why does every YA book have to include mating? I don't understand it. Oh yeah, by the way, Trinity throws Clay out of a window. They're, like, kissing and stuff. And she kicks him out of a window. And she's supposed to be human, by the way. Not a lot of people know what she is. Like, only a couple of friends, her two adoptive fathers, and obviously Misha. So Clay doesn't know what she is, and at this point we don't know either. We think that she's, like, half human, which she is, but not very smart of you, Trinity. Whatever. You know what? I wasn't even into it. Rolling my eyes, I turned back to the door. Sure felt like you were. Only because you were the only female here that won't expect me to mate with her. Mating in Warden terms didn't mean hooking up. It meant getting married and having a metric ton of little Warden babies, and I was beyond insulted at this point. Not because he was super wrong of him to say, but it also struck close to home. There was no one here for me, no relationship that could ever be considered serious. Wardens didn't mix with humans. Didn't even mix with my kind. There's a lot to unpack here, right? Why are we still doing, like, patriarchal dynamics in a fiction book? Who knows? So there are female wardens, but you literally only see, like, one in this book, and that's her best friend Jada. And even then, she is mated to someone else. I'll get to that in a couple minutes. Female wardens don't have anything to do with society. They're just baby machines, which the author acknowledges and does nothing with. Choose your words wisely, buddy. Irritation was quickly turning into anger, and I tried to calm down because bad things happen when I got angry, and those bad things usually involve blood. This is the kind of book we're getting into. So, page 11, by the way, strong start. So, page 14, we finally get introduced to Misha, really. So he's her protector, her, like, bonded protector, basically like her bodyguard. Wherever Trinity goes, Misha follows. If she gets hurt, he has to, be there to make sure she doesn't get hurt. They can't communicate, like, telepathically. They kind of have, like, that pull. You did that? Misha stared at me. Yeah? I crossed my arms as Clay began to pick himself up, and I don't feel remotely bad about it. He didn't understand what just a kiss meant. Misha pivoted back to Clay. Is that so? Totally so, I said. Growling low under his breath, Misha stalked towards Clay, who had finally risen to his knees. He was about to get some help standing up. Gripping him by the back of his shirt, Misha lifted Clay off the ground and turned him around so he was facing Misha. When he let go, the shorter warden stumbled back a step. Did she tell you no, and you didn't listen? Misha demanded. Clay lifted his head. She didn't mean it. Moving as quick as lightning, Misha cocked back his arm and planted his fist right in the center of Clay's dumb face. Down the boy went for a second time tonight. I smirked. Just like I didn't mean to do that, Misha said, crouching down. When someone says no, they mean it. Number 1, Misha growls a lot. For some reason. He will continue to growl. And number 2, this just seems like she said no. What is wrong with you? Growls and hisses. His character is really messy, which we will also see later on. I keep on saying that, but that's because most of the stuff in the beginning doesn't really matter. Most of this is just kind of like baseline characterization, and then the ending, the third part of the book, really flips everything on its head. This feels kind of really shoehorned in, because also she had just kicked Clay. She just kicked Clay out of the window, and Misha comes along because he, like, senses something wrong. It feels kind of like too much. I understand Trinity's thing, is that she just wanted a kiss. Clay went a little bit further, so you kick him out a window. That's justified. And then Misha keeps beating him up, and it seems kind of gratuitous, and it's like, I don't know, Misha, I don't know, which is so sad, because every time I read Misha, I think of Misha Collins from Supernatural, which, again, that will also come back, surprisingly. So, page 17. So here we have a little bit of warden lore, which is also not really clear either. So in this world, we have angels, which are called alphas. So angels are alphas. We have demons, actual demons, and then wardens, which is like, what are wardens? Angels are like actual angels. There is a heaven in this world, and there are demons, and like Lucifer is like real in this world. But then wardens are just like gargoyles. Like stone like when they transform into their true self, they're like gargoyles. They have the wings and the horns and the gray stone skin. Like they're gargoyles. In Notre Dame, when they like made the gargoyles, did they make life? Are the gargoyles that humans made like actual gargoyles? Was like God just waiting for people to discover how to make a gargoyle so that he could like bring the gargoyles out? Have they always been? That's unclear. He did seem freaked out by how strong I was. Of course he did, Trin, because nearly everyone here thinks you're just a human. But I wasn't. I wasn't part warden either, and they were like real-life superheroes, hunting down the bad guys, if superheroes were, well, gargoyles. Until a little over 10 years ago, the beastly-looking statues perched on churches and buildings throughout the world were seen only as architectural wonders. But then they went public, exposing to the world that many of those statues were actually living, breathing creatures. After an initial period of shock, people realized wardens were just another species, and they accepted them. Well, most humans did. There were fanatics like the Church of God's Children who believed wardens were a sign of the end times or something lame, and while the wardens did sometimes help law enforcement if they happened upon a human committing crimes, wardens were mostly gunning for bigger baddies, demons. The general public had no idea demons were real or what they looked like or how many different species there actually were. This doesn't really clarify. Like, they were only seen as architectural wonders, and then they went public. Sculptors didn't know that they were creating life? Like, sculptors, like, they made the gargoyle, carved a gargoyle out of stone, they perched it on the thing, and they had to, like, pretend that they were just gargoyles this whole time? Unclear. Okay, so, at this point, Trinity is just kind of being really annoying. And we get our, like, Bella Swan self-insert kind of description of her, which you'll get what I mean. The part of me that was human came from my mother. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw her staring back at me. I got my dark hair and brown eyes from her, as well as the olive skin tone courteous of her Sicilian roots. I also had her face. Big eyes. Maybe a little too big, because I could make myself look bugged out without much effort. I had her high cheekbones and small nose that was curved slightly to one side at the end. I also had her wide, often expressive mouth. That wasn't the only thing that came from my mother's side. I also had her family genetics. My non-human side. Well, I didn't look like my father. At all. This is something that I could get into a little bit more, but for sake of time, I won't. Most of these YN/YA stories are kind of the same in the sense that they describe their main character as so normal, but something that's still so special about her. She's different, but unique, but also the same as everybody else. They always have, like, too big of eyes, or, oh, my lips were too full, or something like that. Like, as if that was a bad thing. In order to make them seem both unique and like every other girl, they have to have the conventional beauty standards, which in this case is big eyes and a small nose and high cheekbones. But we can't make her too perfect, or else she'll be a Mary Sue, so we have to make her eyes too big, and we have to make her nose a little curved to the side. She just thinks, I am so special. And that also comes back. She calls herself special a whole bunch of times. So Trinity can't listen to anything people say. People tell her, hey, don't do this because it's dangerous. And she thinks, well, I don't care. Even though she can't see very well. We'll get to that in a little bit. Long story short, she has a medical condition where her eyes are like deteriorating. So it's difficult for her to see in like extreme light. So like in really bright light and in really dark light, she can't really see well. So she thinks, how about I jump the wall that's around our like safe haven because I sense a demon. The wall itself stood at a tremendous size, the height equivalent to a 6-story building. The first time I tried to jump it, I ended up smacking into the side of it like a bug on a windshield. That had hurt. Actually, it had taken a couple dozen tries before I cleared the wall, and at least double that before I could do it successfully multiple times. So, she scales the equivalent of a 6-story building just like that. And again, Trinity, you're not very good at pretending to be human. I mean, this is kind of in the middle of the night, so like no one would really see. But also, girl, you're almost blind. What are you doing? This also comes out of nowhere, by the way. Like, she's just sitting in her room, and all of a sudden she thinks, demons. So instead of, telling Misha, her like literal warden protector, or any of the wardens around her house, she just decides to go into the darkness by herself and fight demons. So Trinity has these like steel metal daggers that she uses to fight these demons. And her whole thing is that she throws the daggers. She doesn't really stab with them that often. She like throws them at the demons, which again, we will see later on. So she's like fighting these demons, right? And Misha shows up, obviously, and he tells her off because obviously, what the heck are you doing, Trinity? Misha. I squinted, unable to make out his face in the darkness. What are you doing out here? Did you seriously just ask that question? He held onto my arm as the air stirred around us. Misha leaned down, and all I could make out was the vibrant, bright blue eyes of a warden. What are you doing outside the walls in the middle of the night with your daggers? No point in lying now. There are demons here. What? I don't sense any demons. That doesn't mean they're not here. I can feel them, I told him, tugging on my arm. He let go. They're close even if you can't feel them yet. Misha was quiet for a moment. That's even more reason why you should be anywhere but out here. Anger threaded his voice. You know better than this, Trinity. Irritation prickled over my skin as I turned away from Misha to stare rather pointlessly into the shadows as if I could magically get my eyes to work better for me. I'm tired of knowing better, Misha. Knowing better gets people killed. What? Knowing better gets people killed. Knowing better keeps you alive, and that's all that matters. That's so wrong. That can't be the only thing that matters. I almost stomped my foot, but I somehow managed to stand still. And you know that I can fight. I can fight better than any of you. So this is the first of many instances where we will see Trinity is so childish. She is so irritating and whiny, and she constantly complains. And she's basically the brattiest character I've ever met in a book. She's 18, by the way, a whole legal adult. She's stomping her foot and throwing a tantrum, and knowing better gets people killed. That's not the point of, that's like in the entire sentence. If you know better, you won't get killed. If I know that saw over there will cut off my hand if I get too close, I know better, so I won't put my hand close to the saw. You know what I mean? So what do you mean knowing better gets people killed? So we get a description of a demon. There are a couple demon types, but I think this is the lowest version on the totem pole. These are called raver demons. And oh my god, they sound so stupid. They are the least intimidating thing I've ever read. I'd never seen a raver demon before. I'd only read about them in class and heard some of the other wardens talk about them. Nothing they'd ever described did these creatures justice. They were like rats. Giant, hairless rats that ran on 2 legs, had teeth that a great white shark would envy, and claws that could cut through even the warden's stone-like skin. Ravens were bottom feeders, scavenging demons that preyed on weak humans and corpses of animals, and well, anything dead. They didn't attack warden compounds. And of course, while they're fighting, we have to know how special Trinity is. Page 30. We're only 30 pages in, by the way. Another raver launched into the air, using its powerful legs. It was heading straight for Misha's back. I let honed instinct take over. I cocked back my arm, then let the dagger fly. It struck true, embedding deep in the raver's chest. The thing shrieked as it plummeted from the air and landed on his side, already dead. Misha spun toward me, his mouth slightly agape. How did you do that? I'm special. I switched the other dagger to my right hand. And you have another one right behind you. Again, this is something that we will see multiple times. It is never cute, tongue-in-cheek, funny at any point. It's just constantly being told that Trinity is super, super special. She's actually the specialist ever in the entire world. And everyone kind of enables it. Everyone knows that she's childish and she's really, really immature. But then they flip it over and say, but you're actually super strong too, so it kind of makes sense. No. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. So, because the raver demons are here, they're kind of nervous. Like, what if the lower demons are here? That means there has to be an upper demon close by. So, long story short, Matthew finds out that Trinity's gone, Misha is also gone, so he finds them. And of course, she basically gets grounded. So, she's getting told off. They're back at home by now. And of course, we need to have more exposition, because we're only 36 pages in, And so much and so little has happened at the exact same time. And I know you're trained, and you're good, but Trinity, you need to be careful with your vision, especially at night. Steel shot down my spine. I know what my vision is like at night, but it didn't stop me from kicking some demon butt. It never will. All of us in the room knew that was a lie, because eventually my vision would stop me. It would stop me from doing a lot of things, which kind of canceled out the whole being super special thing I had going on. But that wasn't going to be today or even tomorrow. I lifted up my chin as Matthew and Terry exchanged helpless looks. At some point, my father is going to summon me, and I doubt that whatever fight he wants me involved in will happen only during the daytime. And even then, my vision still sucks. That's not going to change. That's why I train 8 hours a day and practice all the time. I should be out there, getting real experience, before I'm summoned. Terry turned away, running his hand over his smooth head. Misha finally decided to speak up. She didn't have any problems, he said, and that was about 99% true. I hadn't seen that one raver until it was too late. She did really well. You see what I mean? She gets told off for something that's true. Her eyesight is bad. She has Misha there to help her, to protect her. That's his literal actual job. But she's so stubborn that she thinks she can do it herself, and she almost gets attacked. They're constantly enabling this kind of thinking where she has to keep on proving herself. She knows that she's the best, she's the specialist, she's the strongest. But we never actually really see that. All we see is her kind of being helpless, even when she's fighting, constantly whining and stubborn, and she never actually asks for help. They have to come and save her. And then she complains that she didn't need help, etc., etc. You get the point. Like we heard, Raver demons are on the lower level of the totem pole, which means that if you see a Raver demon, it's very likely that there's a higher level demon somewhere in the area. Because they don't fit in well with, like, the general appearance of society, I guess, because they're, like, giant rat creatures. It'll be really obvious to humans that demons exist, and we're not supposed to know that demons exist. Or angels. Wardens are kind of like a 50-50. Humans can know that wardens exist, but, like, you shouldn't really go public with it. It's kind of really confusing. We're also told that wardens are, like, on the good side, but then they have free will, so they're also, like, able to do whatever they want. It's really unclear, and we will also see that later on. Hi, welcome back. Forget that everything is completely different. Let's get back into it. So, page 36. Trinity is back home. We get some really, really clunky exposition. So, Trinity gets grounded, and because she can't listen to anyone ever, she decides to sneak out of her window, and she sees a car coming towards, like, the compound. And because she's, like, the most annoying character ever, she decides to follow. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Terry and Matthew are, like, the heads of this clan. Like, Terry is the head, and Matthew is, like, his second in command. So she follows them to somewhere called the Great Hall, which I assume is like a city hall for this compound. And finally, we get to meet Zane, who is the main love interest for this book. He is absolutely nothing and everything. He is like if a character AI bot was a character in a book. You could project literally anything onto this character and it would probably be true because he has no personality, no discernible likes. He's just like a cardboard cutout for you to project onto. He even asked Trinity, "Can I ask you a question?" like 3 times in this book. Like, my gaze shifted to the blonde, Zane. That must be his name. He turned slightly, and every thought I had scattered like ashes in the wind as I got my first look at him. A tiny, still functioning part of my brain knew how bad being distracted by his appearance was, but I was stunned straight into stupidity. I like to think that I wasn't someone who could be easily distracted by a gorgeous face, but he was beautiful. And that was saying something, because I was constantly surrounded by gorgeous wardens who rocked some great DNA when they appeared human. His skin was golden, like he spent a decent amount of time in the sun. He had a strong jaw that looked as if it were carved from stone, and those lips. How could they look so soft and so hard at the same time? And wasn't that a weird thing to notice? But I so noticed, which probably meant I was veering into creepy territory. High, angular cheekbones matched a straight, proud nose. So, Zane is blonde, which for, like, some people is, like, strike 1, which, trust me, there are many more strikes than just his hair color. For me, I didn't really mind because I kept imagining Zane from Love in Deep Space, which made this, like, marginally better. And from this point on, we will be introduced to the most forced, dry, unnatural banter/chemistry between 2 characters I've honestly ever read. I'm not going to read out every instance because I don't want you to fall asleep, but trust me, you get tired of it by, like, the next chapter. You live here, at the seat of power for dozens of clans, and you almost punch me in the face in under 5 seconds flat. And you were also hiding behind a curtain, being a little snoop. I folded my arms. I'm not a snoop. You're not? Just because I happen to be there, behind a curtain. I ignored that. Just because I happened to be behind a curtain, hiding behind a curtain, he amended. Just because I was partially obscured by a curtain doesn't mean I was snooping around. Zane was only about a foot from me now, and I caught the scent of wintermint again. Do you often find yourself partially obscured by curtains? Why are we talking about this? Because you're claiming you're not a snoop. I mean, maybe you spend your free time standing behind curtains all the time. What do I know? Oh yeah, I actually do like hanging out behind curtains. I like how dusty they are. As if this one snippet wasn't painful enough. Imagine it for 500 pages. All they do is argue in circles. It's never cute, it's never fun, it's just tiring. I'm exhausted reading it, honestly. So, I'm not even gonna lie and say it was nice chatting with you. I'm just gonna leave now. I started to turn. What's your name? I stopped and faced him again. Seriously? What is your name? He repeated. No, he demanded. It's mind your business. That's exceedingly lame, he retorted. I snorted, like a little piglet. I thought it was pretty clever. Now, you can't force chemistry between two characters, because your readers will know. You can write good dialogue, which can then be interpreted as good chemistry, but you can't just, force banter for the sake of banter, and just, assume that that means romantic feelings will blossom. I can tell that these characters have nothing to do with each other. I used to think that Misha was one of the tallest and scariest wardens I'd ever seen in human form, but right now, I was thinking Zane was going to take that number 1 spot. As if we couldn't emphasize enough just how humongous and giant all the guys are, and how itty-bitty little that Trinity is. And the thing is that she's not that small. She's 5'8". That's what we learned from the very first page, so these guys have got to be massive. But even then, even if that's just how wardens and gargoyles are, why would you still write in the fact that Trinity is 5'8" if you're just going to keep on emphasizing how small and little she is? Side note, so page 58, right? We're only 58 pages in, and I feel like they misspelled Misha's name. Throughout the book so far, it's been Misha, and I'll put it up on screen, but for this one part, it's Micsha. And to my knowledge, I don't think that, this book wants to, alternate between the two spellings. This is also a running trend, surprisingly, in the book. There will be tons of misspellings and grammar issues, and I'll highlight them as we go along. Anyways, Misha breaks up the conversation with Zane, and then we get this, weird interaction conversation between Misha and Trinity, which you think, foreshadows something or was set up for something, and kind of it does, but not in the way that you think. Do you want this? I whispered. His brows knitted together. Want what? Us, I said. Being bonded to me. This life. Be honest with me, Misha. I know it's not like we can change anything. It's already been done, but I just need to know. It's what I've been raised to do, Trin. It's all I know. And like you said, it's not like we can change anything. That isn't the same as wanting to do this. The burn in the back of my throat was there, because I'd spent nearly my whole life beside Misha and our lives were irrevocably tied together. I hadn't thought about how he might feel about any of this, had I? I had, but superficially, and mostly about how it impacted me. I'm selfish, I whispered. Misha's head whipped towards me. Normally I'd appreciate this sense of self-awareness and not question it, but why do you think that? My lower lip trembled, because I never realized that you might not want this. Character of the year, right. Incredible writing, incredible. So this is something that we will see, kind of surprisingly often, where you think that Trinity is being self-aware. You think that she's noticing her flaws, noticing her problems, and we're only 60 pages in, this will be resolved by the first book. Spoilers, no it's not. This constantly gets brought up, even to the second book. Note that down in your mind, that even though we're acknowledging her issues, straight up, multiple times throughout the series, nothing ever changes. Even though she constantly says that she's the best and she's the specialist, she's also constantly throwing a pity party for herself, that everyone has to reassure her that she's the best and she's the strongest and she's the smartest ever, even though, we never actually get to see that, really. She always needs help, but she never asks for it. She's always whining and complaining. She never actually actively does anything. So, chapter 4. We get some lore about a ghost that follows Trinity around. His name is Peanut, and there's a lot I could say about him, but just listen to this one page. That's all you need to know. The concert venue he died at had been nearby, and he'd spent God knows how long roaming the streets of Morgantown. He'd formed an attachment to me the moment he realized I could see and talk to him, and he'd done what some ghosts will do. Peanut had followed me home. I tried to get him to cross over, but he'd refused to move on, meaning he was stuck in his death state and looked the way he had when he had died, instead of, like spirits, healthy and whole. He wore a shirt that was obviously vintage, the band's name written in white, and the lead singer screened onto the shirt. His jeans were black and tight, and he wore a pair of red Chuck Taylors. So yeah, Peanut was a ghost. A ghost who was so stuck in the 80s half the time that I didn't even know what he was trying to communicate to me. So Peanut died in the 1980s, and he's wearing a White Snake t-shirt. Vintage. Trinity thinks that the 1980s are vintage. He wore a shirt that was obviously vintage, and then 1980s. That can't correlate in the same sentence. If you notice that I'm kind of like jumping around between pages, it's because nothing is happening. Like, we just get a lot of boring dialogue, maybe one piece of information or exposition, and then that's it. Next chapter. Honestly, all of the interesting things happen in like the last third of the book. The first third-ish only sets up a whole bunch of plot points in the end, and the middle of the book is basically just a whole bunch of boring talking between Zane and Trinity and the characters that we will meet eventually, and none of them are interesting enough to, merit an entire 500-page book. And for some reason, the author is really, focused on dialogue, which is fine. That can tell us a lot about our characters, except a lot of these things that are spoken can just be regular prose. We don't need characters talking about this one incident over and over for 8 pages, and we can just get a single paragraph explaining the situation. So, did you really swing at Zane? How did you know that? Did Misha tell you? Yes. So you did. Why? Have you met him? Last night. He's cute. I'm not sure cute is an effective adjective, and I wonder what Ty would think about you finding him cute. Jada laughed. I may be mating to Ty eventually, but that doesn't mean my eyes don't work anymore. Mating was the archaic and super gross way the wardens referred to what normal people called marriage. They had a very similar ceremony, except the mating ritual lasted 3 days, and mating was, well, it was for forever with the wardens. They didn't recognize things such as divorce or separation, and I also found that archaic as all hell gets out, because they still did the arranged mating thing quite a lot. Ty and Jada were lucky, though. Honestly, truly in love. I didn't know what that felt like, to be loved like that, or to love like that, in a passionate way that made you want to do ridiculous things like pledge your life to another person. I would never know what that felt like either if I stayed here. So I can't exactly, pinpoint what it is that I don't really like about this. I think it's mainly the fact that it's mating is super gross and old, and, it's really weird. But my bestie is, fine, she's, actually in love, unlike everyone else, My bestie is always, perfect, and it actually works for her. Everyone else is just kind of, really gross and weird, and, she benefits from this, They're happy, they're actually truly in love, unlike all the other couples. I don't know, something about it just rubs me the wrong way. So, time skip to morning, and Jada and Trinity go down to the kitchen. All of our characters kind of live in the same house, because so we have Matthew and Terry, which are the father figures. And then we have Jada, who is the niece of Terry. And Misha is bonded to Trinity, so he also lives nearby. So kind of we have everyone in one house. Basically, Trinity gets told off by Terry that since he's the Duke, and since Trinity snuck into the hall and was found out, his authority might be questioned, because if he can't even stop a seemingly human girl from snooping on their conversation, which obviously is really important, then, that's not a good look. And if you think I'm saying it a lot, that Trinity is special and she's so strong and, she's so unique, then just imagine what the rest of the book sounds like. Terry's gaze met mine once more. We do not know what they're capable of, Trinity. We already learned the hard way with people we thought we knew. Greed for power knows no discrimination, no boundaries. The ice returned, seeping through my skin to my very marrow, and I suddenly felt sick to my stomach. I did know that. God, did I ever. One of the prices paid for us to learn that was my mom. I know, I whispered. Good, Terry replied, because they must never know what you are. I don't really understand why this specific point is hammered home over and over and over, because it's honestly impossible for Trinity to forget what she is. At this point, it'd be harder to believe that I would forget what she is, because they keep on saying it, and we don't know it as the reader at this point, but once you find out, it's we get it. Even after it's revealed what she is, we keep on saying it over and over and over. It's please, we get it, Jennifer. So time skip a little bit later. Now Misha and Trinity are at a training range, and Trinity is throwing her daggers because even though she has bad eyesight, for some reason that's her thing. It struck true, hitting the dummy in the center of the chest, sinking to the handle. Lowering my hand, I exhaled and glanced at Misha. He was staring at the dummy. I still don't understand how you do that. I gave him my best cheeky grin. I'm a special snowflake, unique and beautiful. He snorted. You're something. Truth was, I was only this good because I had to practice and train harder than anyone else. I had to focus harder to compensate. I was this good because I couldn't let my failing eyes be a hindrance. At least not yet. Not until they became too much to overcome, and even then I would have to adapt. And that meant training harder. Trinity thinks that simply pushing through her bad eyesight will make her stronger or better, when actually it's kind of hindering her because she's so focused on being the strongest, the most accurate, that she doesn't think outside of the context of the fight, if you know what I mean. Instead of asking for help, asking for someone to get her back, she just runs in, guns blazing, throwing knives everywhere, even though kind of multiple times she's almost hit the people that she's fighting with in the head. In the previous demon fight where she sent the demons and Misha had to come get her, she almost hit him like twice. She thinks that she can just do it all by herself, and this is a known character flaw again, which, spoilers, will never be resolved. She will never ask for help. And if anything, it's just more frustrating to read because she whines and complains about everything happening in her life and she never reaches out for help. And again, this could be like an ironic use of I'm so special, but at this point we're only 70-ish pages in, and I've already read this line over and over and over, and we still have like 400 pages to go, and trust me, it will come up a lot more. So while they're training, Trinity brings up a female warden named Alina that Misha seemingly has a crush on, and of course Misha's putting that to the side because he's Trinity's protector, it's his actual job to be around her, but Trinity's like, no, it's fine, go take her on a date, it's cute, it's whatever. He's your protector, what are you talking about, Trinity? And so we get like a whole paragraph of Trinity lamenting about the state of yearning and how it feels to be loved and all that stuff, which would be good in itself, except there has to be a line at the bottom that says, this is yearning. As if Jennifer doesn't, trust us to understand what emotion she's writing. Like, we will get this beautiful monologue about the state of the heart and how much love will help you. And then at the bottom, she says, I wish I was loved. Like, we get that. We understand it, Jennifer. That's the whole point of the monologue. You don't have to spell it out for us. He looked over his shoulder again, and I saw it flicker across his face. Yearning. It was brief, but there was no mistaking it. I knew what it looked like. I knew what it felt like. That was what had led me to Clay's place. Too bad that had ended with him landing in a rose bush. But sometimes I was so bursting with yearning, I couldn't take it. This is so explicitly tell, not show. We only get to see this yearning when someone else is talking about someone that they like. Like Trinity herself, when we get Soul Trinity chapters, talks about literally nothing. In fact, she has less going on in her head than Bella Swan. But for some reason, whenever there's a guy, or, Jada and Ty, she suddenly flips on this hopeless romantic charade, and she's lamenting and groaning about how, the state of love. And it's, kind of jarring almost, because it's like, Trinity, you used to be, so strong and so special, and look at you in Miss Independent, right? All of a sudden Jada mentions Zayn and she's swooning and she's a melted puddle on the floor. It's kind of really weird, this tonal dissonance. So Trinity manages to convince Misha to go to Alina, ditch his job basically. And of course, she continues training, hitting every target on the bullseye. And Zayn, oh my god, he oversees her. He's like, what? You're so good at this. And of course, we get more incredible banter. Well, the last time I tried to alert you to my presence, you tried to kill me. My brows lifted. I did not try to kill you. Not how it felt from my perspective. Then your perspective leans towards the overdramatic. You're hard to talk to. Offended, I glared at him. No, I'm not. Okay, let me rephrase that. You're argumentative. No, I'm not. Why are you here? On Earth, at this place, at this right moment and exact time? That's not what I meant. Why are you in this room, watching me? You make it sound like I'm stalking you. It's just this constant repetitive back and forth, no you, for pages and pages and chapters and chapters. And honestly, I can't even emphasize how, mundane it is. It's not funny or clever at all. It's just beating a dead horse with the same, dry, sarcastic punchline. So Zayn gets a little suspicious as to how Trinity is so well trained, because the only people in the compound are, of course, wardens, or people who have been exposed to demons and therefore need protection. But even people who have been exposed to demons don't get this level of training, so he's kind of like, well, I did swing at you, and that kind of set the tone. It did, but it was mostly on me. I was just so surprised to see a human at the regional seat. Thick lashes lowered, shielding those strange eyes. May I? It took me a moment to realize he was talking about the daggers. Sure. His fingers brushed mine as he took one, causing that strange little jolt to travel up my arm. A sense of familiarity swept over me, a feeling of rightness, of many moving pieces finally clicking into place. I jerked my hand back. I lifted my gaze to his and sucked in a sharp breath. His eyes were wide, and his head was cocked slightly, like he felt something he didn't understand. Or he could just be looking at me because I was acting bizarrely. Probably that. So this scene kind of brings up like an issue with a whole bunch of other scenes where the scene will get undercut by this sudden, oh my god, but we're so super special together. Trinity, what is this? If I didn't mention this, probably nothing would have actually changed about like your knowledge of the series because it's so insignificant in the moment. I almost didn't remember it until I reread this and I thought, oh, that's what that means? Yeah, it's as stupid as you think it is. Also, Trinity mentions his strange eyes. So, wardens have these, like, bright blue eyes. Like, you know the meme, the one that, you know what I mean. So, all of these wardens have bright blue eyes. But Zane, because he's so super special, he has these, like, pale, icy blue eyes that are lighter than everyone else. She's like, what? I've never seen a warden with those eyes before. You're special and unique. And we learned that both Trinity and Zane are orphans. Trinity's mother died recently, that we will talk about a little bit later on. And her father is some kind of supernatural creature that we'll learn later on. Zane's mother died in childbirth, and his father was the leader of the DC clan who had died recently, which is the reason that the heads of the DC clan plus Zane came here to Morgantown. So while Trinity was snooping on them in the Great Hall, she learned that Zane wasn't actually the clan leader. It was the other guy, Nikolai. And so she thinks, why isn't Zane the clan leader if his father was the leader before him? That would be like, direct succession. And because Trinity is like the worst and has no impulse control, she just blurts it out outright. Terry had said earlier, I was often too curious for my own good. Why aren't you the clan leader? Zane looked down at me. That's not something I can talk to you about. Disappointment rose, even though it wasn't an unexpected response. Because I'm not a warden? He smiled tightly in response. And because I don't know you. Shame wiggled around in my stomach. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. I'm often impulsive and nosy. See you later, Zane. I pivoted around and took several more steps. Trinity. I stopped and closed my eyes. I had no idea what to do with the little shiver that curled its way through my core. Yeah? As if I had no control, I turned back to him. He hadn't moved, and I was once again too far to see his eyes clearly, but I felt his gaze intense and heavy. My heart rate kicked up. How did your mother die? Was it a demon or something natural? No, it was a warden. So, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, the typo? Love it. I didn't even see it until I reread that passage. Second, Trinity can't ask a reasonable question like, if your father was the leader of the clan, why aren't you the leader? And he says, no, I don't want to talk about it. Which, you know what? Fair. He doesn't have to say everything to her, right? Because they're strangers. Piggybacking off of that, hey, we're strangers. How did your mother die? And yes, I expect a response. And she just says it? And again, saying outright, I'm impulsive and nosy. I'm too curious for my own good. We get that from the dialogue, from the interaction, from the scene itself. We don't need you to spell it out for us. Like, we can see that you are impulsive and nosy and annoying. You don't have to write that bluntly in a sentence. Like, we can infer that. So, time skip, because nothing else important happened. Trinity and her friends are at a place called the Pit, which is like where all the wardens gather around just to hang out. And we learned that Clay's accolade, which is like a graduation from warden school into being like a full-fledged warden, was postponed because of the incident with Trinity. And as if you couldn't tell that Clay was like an antagonistic character or he was angry at Trinity, just this page is so beautiful in the way it illustrates this. Hey, Clay shouted. I looked up to see him heading in our direction, still shirtless. None of us acknowledged him as he stood there. I just stared at him. Undaunted, Clay looked at Jada and Ty, and then refocused on me. You know what you should be doing right now? I tensed. You should be getting me a drink, he said, loud enough that half the people around the pit had to have heard him. My jaw dropped. Excuse me? A drink? You should get one for me. Are you serious right now? Yeah, I am. Are you high? Jada asked. He looked at her as he ran a hand over his chest. You don't get a body like this being high. First of all, what? I have a question for you, I said. You've watched Game of Thrones, right? A flicker of confusion across his face was visible. Yeah? Remember King Joffrey? I smiled sweetly. You remind me of him. Jada sounded like she was dying beside me. The too charming smile faltered. A long moment passed as Clay stared at me. I get it. Get what? You. I lifted my brows. Is there a problem? Misha was suddenly there, behind Clay, because I remember clearly the conversation you and I had. Yeah, I remember it. Clay was grinning again as he pivoted. He eyed Misha and then patted him on the shoulder. One of these days. With that, Clay walked off, throwing his arms up and out as he drew back his head and let out a roar that was definitely not human. So somehow Clay became like a cartoonishly evil, not even one-dimensional. This is like a half-dimensional character. He's like breaking the laws of physics in how flat and tonally dry this character is. We get it from the very first page of the book, and it's carried over. It's like, honestly and truly, Jennifer, we get it. So after that beautiful scene, Trinity decides to go home. And of course, as she's walking home, who else does she stumble across but Zane? And there's more like dry, weird banter that I'm not even gonna bother reading out because it's just so... And so we learned that Zane is 21, turning 22, and obviously Trinity is 18, turning 19. At this time of recording, I am 19, so I'm like, kind of right in the middle. And Zane's not that old, he's only 21, but just considering the fact how immature and childish and whiny and annoying Trinity is, I don't see how he would see any kind of redeeming qualities in her. Like, it's not even like a cute way, it's not in like a tsundere way, she's just like a baby. She's annoying. Like, I dread reading her dialogue or her internal thoughts, and this book is literally all in her head. So time skip ahead because nothing is happening at all, and we're at this kind of like pre-accolade party. Like, the accolade is like this big event, and I think this is like a precursor to that. So Trinity is outside with Misha, and they find this ghost who looks like he's been like ripped apart by a mountain lion, and you'd think that this is like super important to the story. It honestly isn't. The only thing that is worth pointing out is that, again, I'll put it up on screen, Misha's name is misspelled again as Mischa. This is the second time in like 100 pages. So Misha runs off to find Alina at this party and leaves Trinity alone with this ghost, right? And we never actually end up seeing Alina. We see her like once, and she never gets any dialogue. We just kind of breeze past her. And of course, while Trinity is outside this party talking to the ghost, who shows up but Zane? As you assume, Zane's not a party person. He just doesn't like it. He's not a people person, even though he constantly like somehow finds Trinity. This technically would be explained later on, but so contrived that I don't like it. Why is the banquet not your kind of thing? He lifted his shoulder and dropped it. It's boring, and lurking out here isn't. Those pale eyes warmed as they met mine. There's absolutely nothing boring out here. I jolted in surprise. Are you flirting with me? He bit down on his lower lip, dragging his teeth over the fleshy pink skin as he eyed me through thick lashes. I'd never think of doing such a thing. I had no idea if he was being honest or not. Wardens didn't flirt with anyone other than other wardens. Well, with the exception of Clay, but look how that had turned out. This in my mind just like doesn't work. I don't know if it's just like my mind's eyes picturing it wrong. Is this like a thing? Is this just like a regular Bella Swan lip bite? Or is this like a specific kind of like because it says like the fleshy pink skin is like dragged over his teeth. It's not really described in an like pleasant way either. So it's like, or is it like, it hurts. And he does this a lot. Like, his lower lip must be like chewed out. If someone ever did that to me, I just like get up and leave. Like, I'm already scared of people as it is, but if you're like brandishing your teeth at me and like, I'd take that as a fight. I'm running away, sorry. So then, boring dialogue later, Zane runs off, and of course, we need some more Zane lore. His eyes. Misha dropped his hand. You might not have been close enough to see his eyes. I've seen his eyes. I cut him off, and his gaze sharpened. They are a little different. A little different? I frowned. They're a lighter blue. And have you ever seen a warden's eyes that color before? He questioned. We all have the same eye color, Trin. That's just the way we're made. Okay, the fact that Zane's eyes are different is odd, but what's the big deal? Are we discriminatory towards light-eyed wardens now? Don't be dumb, he snapped. There is no other warden like him. There is no other being like me, I pointed out. It's not the same, far from it. Look, his eyes are like that because he's lost a part of his soul. I don't know the details, but their clan raised a girl who was half warden, half demon. And because Trinity is so special, of course she needs the specialist guy ever too. She can't just have like a regular warden. She needs to have a unique warden. A warden that's not like any other wardens. Like, are we being for real right now? So like side topic, but same topic. Apparently this is explained in the author's first series of these books, where Zane is like one of the male leads. And I'm pretty sure having that context would help a lot. So I'm just going to like explain it really briefly. I've never read the author's first series, and I don't think I ever will because no. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown from what I've gathered. If it's wrong, sorry. So there's a girl named Layla who is half warden, half demon. she also has to be super special in the YN of the first book series. So she's in this love triangle with a demon named Roth, or like Astaroth, and Zane. And small spoiler, but like big spoiler, Layla and Roth are also in this series, which I will get to later. It doesn't make sense really, but... And because of the way Layla's powers are manifested, it's like whoever she kisses, she like takes a little bit of their soul. Obviously, Layla has kissed Zane and take a little part of his soul. And so Layla like dies temporarily and then comes back, and then Zane like hooks up with her best friend Stacy, and I think that Stacy's like pseudo situationship boyfriend guy had just died, so like it's a whole mess. And apparently all this took place 6 months before the start of this book series. And for some reason, Layla and Roth are like a really big part of this book series too, which I honestly don't understand, because she had the first series. Why bring her back? This just creates like a lot of unnecessary conflict, really. So we can assume at this point that obviously Zane's clan didn't want him as clan leader because they hate demons, they want to kill demons, and he's fooled around with demons before, which is not a good look if you're like the leader of the Wardens. So time skip a little bit later, after the accolade and the ghost sighting, Trinity can't sleep, so she decides, of course, to just go out on a midnight walk all by herself, blind, mind you, just for fun. So she decides to go to the pit, and a warden in like a white, like rosy-cheeked baby doll mask, like think like the Purge kind of mask, shows up for some reason and is like not actively like attacking her and harming her, but more just like restraining her. And oh my god, what is going on? Spoilers, it's Clay. I'm just gonna say it now, this means very little to the actual plot. This was like so obvious considering what we had just seen Clay's character do, like howling like an alpha male at the moon and being shirtless. And so they're kind of, struggling, and Clay's warden nails accidentally cut Trinity's skin, which is not a good thing because her blood is also super special and super yummy, and if demons smell it, they're gonna come. Its aroma filled the air and rose with the wind, a metallic sweet scent that could not be hidden. It would draw them, and that knowledge triggered the thing that rested deep inside me, a power that I'd been taught since birth to keep under control, to keep hidden until the time my father unleashed me. Heat flared in my chest, the power and the warmth of 1,000 suns. It rushed through my veins like a storm and heated lightning. My grace rose to the surface, took over even as I fought it, even as I tried to think of winter, of cold mornings and icy rain. It was no use. I felt it. Heat rippled down my arm, and white light filled the corners of my eyes. You should run. The warden didn't listen. White fire erupted from my arm and exploded from my hand, shooting out in a spitting flame as my fingers curled around the heated handle already forming against my palm. His wings unfurled as I lifted the sword high. Flames arced as I swung it down, catching the warden in the shoulder. A warden's skin was almost impenetrable. Almost. The sword cleaved into him like a hot knife sliding through butter, burning away skin and blood before it could even spill into the air, carving him in half as a righteous fire rippled through him, consuming every inch of the warden before he could even scream. Within seconds, nothing was left of the warden but a pile of ashes, lit by the spitting, burning sword. Only the half-melted mask remained. The grace recoiled and the sword collapsed into itself, becoming wisps of smoke and a fine dusting of golden light that evaporated in the wind. Slowly, I crouched and picked up the ruined mask. The moment my fingers touched it, the plastic fell apart, joining the dust on the ground. Whoops, I whispered, and straightened. So, first of all, she uses her grace, which, spoiler, if you don't know what that is, it's an angel. Wow, Trinity's half angel. It's so special. Her mother's Sicilian human, her father is some kind of angel. Second, she just killed someone, which I guess in her perspective, yes, he was attacking her, she was hurt. She just straight up killed someone, right? Turned him into ashes, and she didn't know it was Clay at this point, so just murder, and then says, whoops. This is our main character that is supposed to be likable. She kills someone straight up and says, whoops. My gaze immediately lifted to the ceiling, even though I couldn't see the paintings anymore, no matter how brightly lit the hall was. Angels adorned the ceiling, many of which were battle angels, the Alphas. Those were the angels that oversaw the wardens and often communicated with them, sometimes even in person, though I'd never seen one in real life. Painted in their armor and wielding righteous swords, they were a fearsome sight to look upon. So this doesn't make sense because assume at this point that Trinity has seen her father. She knows obviously of angels' existences. Unless this book specifies like the difference between regular angels, like battle angels, and archangels, like the alphas and then the archangels. But even then, it wouldn't make sense for her to just say a blanket term like, but I've never seen an angel before, because kind of spoiler later on, we do end up seeing an angel, and she recognizes them like, straight up. Terry hesitated. Every last one of your kind has been slaughtered, Trinity. If an upper-level demon knew you were here, those walls would already be breached. Nothing would stop it from getting to you. Every last one of her kind has been slaughtered. So you'd assume this means, like, half-angels, Nephilim, not actual angels. But clearly, there was a Nephilim born 18 years ago. Trinity. And this question never really gets answered in this book. Like, why are there no other half-angels, or Nephilims, or trueborns, but Trinity exists? So, angels are clearly still alive. Trinity is not being, like, outwardly hunted or attacked. She's been able to live peacefully for the last 10 years or so. So why wouldn't there be any more trueborns? Unless it was, like, made a sin by God, but we don't know that at this point. This is just kind of thrown out there in the book, and we just kind of have to assume the rest. This does get answered in the second book for, like, one paragraph, and even then, the answer is not, like, satisfying at all, So then, suspiciously, while Trinity is running home, bleeding everywhere and kind of almost dying, she stumbles across Zane, who also somehow happens to be on a midnight walk. And later on, when they ask him about, how was he there, he says he just had a feeling. I wonder what this means. You're bleeding bad. I was vaguely aware of his touch gentling as my heartbeat thrummed. Kind of? What happened to you? Zane kept a hold of one of my arms, anger joining the concern, sharpening his tone as he spoke. Who did this to you? Long story short, he ends up picking her up and takes her back home, and she gets her wound stitched up by Matthew. So, chapter 11, they're back home. Zane mentions that her blood kind of smells like ice cream, which, for angels, apparently their blood is supposed to smell like something you like your favorite food. And also, to Zane, Trinity is still a human, and if he knows this fact about angels, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, you smell like my favorite thing, which every other time that I've met an angel, as like a part of the DC clan, they smelled like ice cream. In hindsight, these two dots didn't connect for him, and neither did it for me either, because I was like, this is such a random thing to fixate on. It should have given her away, but it didn't, because Zane is no thoughts, head empty. So Trinity gets taken to her room, and Matthew comes to see her, and that it's fine, because her wounds will heal in like a week or so, which, remember this, because, and I'm still mad about this, in the second book, she ends up getting hurt, and she's, like, surprised at the fact that her wounds are healing fast. So, like, most of the things we learned in the first book, I'm telling you to remember them now, because Jennifer didn't. Like, the things that I've noted down that I thought were, like, unimportant and nitpicks, apparently they're, like, super important for the second book. But then the things that you think are important for the first book just, like, don't matter at all. His gaze moved to my shoulder, where I knew only the edges of the claw marks were visible. I also knew that in a day or so, those marks would be nearly healed. What happened to you out there? I really don't know, and that was the truth. Terry and Matthew didn't tell me much, but I'm under the impression that whoever attacked you is dead. He is, I admitted. Good. I jolted in surprise. He was trying to hurt you. He gestured to my arm with his chin. He did hurt you. He got what he deserved. Wow. Zane was a little bloodthirsty. I kind of liked it. And you did it? Killed a warden? How? I slowly shook my head. The blades? Or you're a hell of a lot more trained than you let on. So, just before Zane had come into the room, Terry and Matthew had kept on mentioning this, like, mistake that they made that they should have reconciled a long time ago. And, as you would assume, this doesn't get resolved until the very end of the book. You would honestly forget that this was even mentioned because it's only, like, written in one sentence, one time in this one chapter. And this is, like, a pretty big, quote-unquote, plot point. And it's not given any, like, real weight. And just before they end up leaving the room, Trinity asks where Misha is, because if Trinity got hurt, shouldn't Misha have known? Shouldn't he have, like, sensed it and come running? And they were like, oh, Misha's just, like, really sad right now, he doesn't want to talk to you. And that's all the explanation we get for that. And then Zane comes in and, they have their little angsty yapping session. You saw Misha? Briefly. Is he your boyfriend? What? I laughed. He's a warden. So, I repeated, eyes widening. Wardens don't date anyone other than wardens. His brows knitted together. That's not true. You've dated humans? I've dated outside of wardens. And I'm not going to read this paragraph out loud because gross, but this is another, like, unnecessary Cassandra Clare Mortal Instruments moment that, why did we have to emphasize this again, Jennifer? We got it the first time in, like, the first couple chapters. Why did you have to say it again? You could have just said, no, he's not my boyfriend, full stop, but instead you had to So because nothing else happens in that chapter, let's just skip ahead to chapter 12. So Trinity's just sitting in her room being bored, after being nearly maimed, and she realizes that Peanut is nowhere to be found. So by some ungodly reason, she just decides to go and move the plot along by herself by unnecessarily going and looking for Peanut, who she assumes is in Zane's room watching him shower. I'm not going to explain that because there really is no explanation for it. So the DC clan guys are in the Great Hall, so she goes out, she looks for him, and of course, for like fan service or something, Zane opens the door in just a towel, just finished a shower, dripping wet, and of course Peanut is in the room. Like, we get it, Jennifer. You're trying to emphasize how attractive Zane is, but this just seems so forced. It's so unnecessarily gratuitous. I feel embarrassed. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment just like recounting it after I read it. I already had secondhand embarrassment as I was reading it as Trinity, and now I'm getting it again as I'm recounting it to you. This is like secondhand embarrassment squared. They just have more lukewarm banter. They say nothing, and we're just gonna skip the end of this chapter because completely useless, honestly. I frowned at him. What point are you trying to make with your Chewbacca argument? Chewbacca argument? Yeah, you're just saying a bunch of nonsensical words and stringing them together like they mean something. So, like a day before I read this book, I had just watched a South Park video, of all things, that actually explained what this was. So, seeing this come up all of a sudden was like really jarring. It's like one of those things where you read a word for the first time and you see it everywhere. Because I took some law classes in high school and I had never heard of this term before that video that I watched, actually. And so I read it in this book and I'm like, wow, this is like a actual pop culture idiom. So chapter 13, they mention the Winchester brothers again, which just further proves that this is a supernatural fanfic and that Trinity is basically Jennifer's OC of like half angel. Oh my god. What if Trinity is like her Destiel child OC? So Zane and Trinity end up going to train because Misha doesn't care about her at all for some reason. He kind of just disappears in the middle of the book, which is unexplained at this point in time. And even when we get an explanation, it still doesn't make sense. So just, if you don't hear about Misha for a while, that's why. So they fight, and she's super cool, super fast. Oh my god, how strong are you, Trinity? Blah, blah, blah. You're just a human. And she ends up pinning him onto the ground. And all of a sudden, like, wow, you are super hot. There was a swift change in the atmosphere around us. A sudden charge of heady tension and a wild rush of desire swirled through me, clawing to break free. It reminded me of my grace when it lit up my veins, burning through skin and tissue. Breathing became difficult as we continued to stare at one another. Zane didn't move off of me, and I thought he would have by now, but he was still above me, those pupils continuing to stretch. His full lips parted. I wanted him. I never really felt desire before, but it was burning me up from the inside. Want, need, this was what I'd been missing when I'd kissed someone before. This was what yearning really felt like, and I lifted my head off the mat, bringing our mouths so close I could taste his breath on my lips, and I thought I might drown in it. Zane didn't pull away. Instead, it seemed as if he became even more still. I kissed him. So, if you're thinking that this kind of comes out of nowhere, it does, because the author already knows that these two will like each other. So, we get little to no chemistry. It's just kind of like shoving two Barbie dolls together and making them kiss. This tension falls so flat because of their forced hatred of each other, which is not even hatred. They've been flirting since day one. This has nothing to do with enemies to lovers. This is barely enemies, and it's barely even lovers. If you think this ends up going somewhere, you're wrong. The chapter just ends. Nothing happens. They just stop kissing, and then they go home. Chapter 14, they get dressed up for another accolade, which, if you remember, kind of sort of happened like a couple chapters ago, but that was like a pre-accolade party or something. So now they're getting dressed up for the real accolade. So Trinity finds a ghost inside of the accolade for some reason, who is a warden, and she follows him outside. He says a bunch of cryptic words that literally means absolutely nothing to the plot. Jennifer does this a lot with like ghosts foreshadowing a whole bunch of plot stuff, which to my knowledge right now, this doesn't matter at all. So Trinity follows this ghost outside into like this garden. I think this is taking place at the Great Hall, and they're symbolically standing under a statue of a battle angel who's holding like a head of a demon. We get it, Jennifer, as if we couldn't have like heavy-handed metaphors already. So next chapter, chapter 15. Who'd have guessed it? Zane shows up outside. Even though last Accolade, if you remember, he said parties aren't really his thing, Accolade isn't really his thing, which doesn't really make sense because Accolade is more like a graduation party, so it's like you had an Accolade, Zane, because you graduated to being a warden. So they're doing this weird, dry banter again, and she senses demons around, and Zane transforms, and probably one of the most, like, gratuitous to wow, look at how big he is descriptions I've ever read in my life. Zane landed in front of me in a crouch that rattled the ground. My heart leapt as I rose onto an elbow, pushed the hair out of my face and saw him. Saw Zane for who he really was. As he rose to his full height, he was the same shape and size that he'd been moments ago, but now the white tunic shirt hung in torn strips from his waist. Muscles tensed along his bare back, moving under the deep slate gray skin, and his holy crap on a cracker the size of Texas. His wings were spread out on either side of him, a span of at least 8 feet, maybe 10. Parting his blonde hair, 2 fierce horns curled back. I'd always thought Misha was large for a warden, but he had nothing on Zane. The very first page of this book, if you remember, emphasized just how big Clay was, right? And then Misha was even bigger, because even though Trinity isn't that small, she's 5'8", if you remember, which this book doesn't seem to remember. Every single person is just so massive. His wingspan is 8 feet, maybe 10. 10 feet long. Do you know how big that is? Are we supposed to, like, imagine, like, this absolutely humongous creature and think of anything but, like, fear? This is not something, at least for me personally, this is not something that, like, I'm like, ooh, wow. I would be terrified. I'm already terrified of regular people, period. And then there's this 10-foot wingspan giant Goliath who's, like, growling and hissing and fighting demons. Absolutely not. No way. An explosion happens, and there's a bunch of bullets flying around, which is weird because demons don't use bullets. There's just kind of like general chaos and mayhem happening at the Accolade for no reason. So then, of course, they jump to fighting. They're fighting demons, humans, ? And Trinity ends up snapping the neck of a human who has the same baby, like, mask face that Clay had when he attacked her. And again, Trinity killed Clay with, like, little to no remorse. We didn't even get a page, like, mourning him or her feeling guilty. Like, they didn't even consider it. Like, she's just like, oh yeah, I killed Clay, a guy I knew since I was a kid. Anyways, next. Like, it's really odd. But then as soon as she kills a human who is, like, actively attacking her, again, like Clay, she freaks out about it. I didn't think as I gripped the creature's head and twisted sharply. It shuddered under me before going still. Folding my fingers under the mask, I pulled until the strap that held it in place snapped free. I found myself staring down into the face of a human. I rocked back, stunned. This man, he was a human. I slowly shook my head and rose to my feet as I backed away. Realization rose. I sensed demons, but this man wasn't a demon, and it suddenly made sense. I could feel demons sometimes minutes before wardens could. I hadn't felt the men in the garden, or heard them like Zane did. Demons weren't here. Yet. So she senses demons, but then the people attacking them aren't actually demons, and the demons aren't here. That doesn't make sense. If Zane heard something happening, because they can both sense demons, they both sensed demons, and then all of a sudden the people attacking them are humans. She's trying to, like, subvert your expectations, kind of. It's like, wow, it's not demons, it's humans, and Trinity killed a person, so she's like, ooh, morality. But it's like, she's already killed people before. Zane is doing that thing where he's like, it's okay, you did what you had to do, but it's like, well, I guess. Because Zane also has this, like, questionable, morally gray thing happening, but not even in an interesting way. It just seems like he doesn't care. He doesn't care who lives or dies. It's really odd to read, because Trinity keeps on telling us, like I said, this book is a really, really telling book, not showing. Keeps on telling us that Zane is so caring and smart, and he's also deadly and bloodthirsty and ruthless, and we don't see that. He acts the exact same as, like, Clay and Misha and all the other guys that we're going to end up seeing in this book. Nothing special is going on. You'd think, again, that this is, like, a big thing that's happening. It honestly isn't. Chapter 17, page 240. We're a little under halfway through the book. So Misha finds Trinity in the garden, takes her away from Zane, and they run home. only to be attacked by the demon Baal, or Baal, I think it's pronounced Baal, who apparently was looking for a trinity. Again, this comes out of absolutely nowhere. Instead of taking Trinity, he kidnaps Misha, which, remember this is important. So Baal is looking for Trinity, kidnaps Misha instead. Trinity inexplicably refuses to, like, use her grace or do anything important. She's kind of just sitting there, and then, like, Zane runs and he's like, oh my god, is that Baal? And Baal's like, oh my god, I know you, Zane. And then that's, like, almost never questioned, and then Baal takes Misha away. So presumably, Baal knew somehow that Trinity and Misha were bonded, so he doesn't kill Misha immediately. Remember this is, like, doesn't make any sense later on. So after this happens, Trinity and Zane go back to Matthew and Terry, and they tell him what happened. Of course, Matthew and Terry say, sucks to suck, I guess we'll look for him, but if we don't find him, then you just have to give up. And Trinity goes, absolutely, what the heck are you talking about? I'm gonna go find him. So then the DC guys offer to bring Trinity back to DC because, for some reason, DC is like a mecca of demons, which tracks. Instead of, being smart or creating some kind of argument for herself or using logic, she just shows off her special angel powers in front of everyone, is like, see, I'm strong. And it's like, Trinity, that doesn't really prove that you can do anything. Like, if I held, like, a rifle in my hands, sure, that means that I can kill someone, I can attack someone, but that doesn't mean that I will use it properly. Like, I could misfire, I could, like, hurt myself, just because you're strong doesn't mean that you'll do a good job of finding him, especially since we haven't seen a lot of evidence of her using her brain in this book. So, chapter 19, page 255. What are you? She's a trueborn, Terry answered, sounding more tired than I'd ever heard. Half human, half angel, Nikolai finished, his eyes wide as he stared at me with a mixture of wonder and something else, something far more potent. Fear. You're a Nephilim. I prefer to be called a trueborn, I said. Nephilim is so outdated. How? Zane reached out, clasping the back of an empty chair. How is this possible? You thought that all trueborns were gone, hunted out of existence by demons and wardens alike, and nothing but myth and legend, Matthew supplied for him. That is true. But she's standing right there. Zane took a step toward me, then stopped short. How? She's the last of her kind, Matthew explained, and we've been charged with keeping her hidden and safe in our community since she was a child. That is how she's lived this long. That's not the only reason, I said, feeling the wet warmth start to drip from my nose. Reaching up, I wiped my hand under my nose. When I looked down, my finger was dotted with blood. I sighed. It's why I've been trained. And you've just been kept here? Zane asked. Until my father summons me, I shrugged as Matthew strode towards me. Yay, we get a reveal. Wow, everyone knows that she's a super special angel. Trueborn, actually. Her mother's Sicilian, and her father is, an angel. I wonder who he is to make her so strong. Oh my god. She will continue to use the word trueborn, like, 5 times every single chapter. She will consistently call herself the best trueborn. Oh my god, have you forgotten I'm a trueborn? How could we forget that you're a trueborn, Trinity? We should just call you Trueborn Trinity, because you keep on saying it. It's like your middle name. She moved it from her middle name to her first name. She always calls herself a trueborn. We get it, Trinity. I'm tired of reading the word trueborn. I'd rather read the word Nephilim, because at least that's a cool word. But I guess it's too old for you, Mrs. 1980s or vintage. So now we have to call ourselves trueborns. That's why you all reacted the way you did to her blood, Zane said, cursing under his breath. They can sense it, and it'll tell them that she's half angel. They wouldn't be able to stop themselves from coming after her. She's the closest thing to heaven they'd ever get to. Yeah, and they tend to get a wee bit nom-nom, I said, shivering. Demons believe that if they consume a trueborn, they'll be able to enter heaven. I'm special. I lifted my shoulders again. Very special. Zane stared at me, opening his mouth and closing it. Is that why you can see ghosts? Nikolai asked. I shook my head at him. Yes, it's because angels can see spirits and souls of those who have died. And other humans that can do it, they have watered-down angelic blood. Probably from a great-great-great-grandmother times 1,000 who got a little freaky with an angel. The way that she says, like, oh, your great-great-great-grandmother probably got freaky with an angel, it feels kind of, like, really nonchalant about this, which they keep on calling trueborns, like, a thing of the past, which is clearly angels are still alive because Trinity was born 18 years ago, even though this was made a sin. So it's like, why are we being so nonchalant about this? Like, I know she keeps on saying that she's special and stuff, but still, it's like, why is no one questioning the fact that there is, like, how there's a trueborn here? You know what I mean? We'll learn later on the context of why she's the only trueborn, and by that I mean the second book, for like one paragraph. Whenever the alphas come to see us, there's always this thick golden light that comes first. I'm not even sure it is light, because it reminds me of liquid. Whenever I've been around them, I've smelled it. He shook his head. So much makes sense now, and I almost can't believe I didn't figure it out. How could you, though? Trueborns are thought to be things of the past. I rested my hands on my thighs. I don't want you to treat me differently now that you know what I am. Trinity. Trinity looked into my eyes. Of course he's going to treat you differently. Because you insist upon making yourself different. You insist upon making yourself the strongest, the smartest, the most capable. You consistently make him think differently about you because you're telling him to. This entire book, you're saying, don't think that I'm weak, I'm a trueborn. Don't think that I'm this, I'm a trueborn. I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm blah, 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 blah. What do you mean, don't think differently about me? So what? I'm not supposed to think that you're annoying and a bad person? Because that's what I think about you. If you want me to keep on thinking that about you, then I will, because it's true. Anyways, so Matthew and Terry kind of sort of agree that Trinity can go to DC, probably to get rid of her, because, oh my god, I'm so annoyed by her too. So, literally next chapter, immediately we're at DC. There's no packing stage, we're just gone. So we go to Zane's apartment because of course she's living with Zane, which doesn't make sense because like Zane and the DC guys, Nikolai, etc., they lived in like essentially the Great Hall, which is like, I guess like City Hall kind of, which is like a giant mansion. So why would Trinity not also go to like DC's equivalent of a City Hall or their Great Hall? Like, this is just, again, this is like forced proximity just to get them to interact with each other. The floors were exposed cement, ceilings were high, and large fans dropped from them, churning slowly. To my left was a kitchen area, a row of white cabinets parted by a gas stovetop and stainless steel exhaust fan. There was a long rectangular island, large enough to seat several people, but only two black, sturdy-looking metal stools sat on one side. Across from the kitchen area was a large sectional couch, wide enough for two wardens to lie on side by side, and it sat in front of a large television. To the left of that was an open space. I could make out a punching bag and what appeared to be blue mats tucked against the wall, the kind that were in our training facilities back home. There were several closed doors, and that was all. Everything was very industrial, very bare. This is the saddest thing I've ever read. Like, I'm sorry for people who really like this, but like, industrial, like, brutalism kind of decorating, not my thing. This sounds like he's a prisoner. He sounds like he's a really, really lonely, sad prisoner of war. And also, a couch for two wardens that two wardens can lay on side by side. If we're supposed to believe that this is, like, in their warden form, remember, Zane has, like, a 10-foot wingspan, which I know wingspan is, like, much bigger than, like, the actual width of the animal. But, like, that's a huge couch. How big is this little prison? This is all just, like, one flat, too. I want to see that couch. That would be that couch is probably bigger than my room. Oh, and of course, there's only one bed. So, like, ooh, I wonder what's gonna... No, they don't share the bed. Trinity takes the bed. And Zane gets the couch. Because, obviously. And that's all that happens this chapter. So, chapter 21. They go out patrolling because they're looking for the demon ball. And Trinity senses a lot of demons. Obviously, because this is a really populated city. And it's DC. And it's America. You're gonna sense a lot of demons. She kind of gets confused as to why, you know, the wardens aren't actively hunting all of these demons. And Zane is like, why would we do that? They're not, like, actively hurting us. Most of these are, like, really weak, low-level, like, trickster demons. They aren't actually hurting us. And Trinity gets confused by morality. You don't hunt them? I asked, confused. He didn't answer for a long moment. I used to hunt demons indiscriminately, no matter what they were guilty of. Isn't that kind of your job as a warden? Yeah. When he said nothing else, all I could do was stare at him and wonder what in the heck I'd got myself into. No wonder he wasn't a clan leader. How could he be when he didn't hunt fiends? And I couldn't forget he'd worked with demons before. But his clan appeared to trust him, at least enough to allow me to stay with him, even knowing what I was. You're a strange warden, I whispered. One side of his lips kicked up. And you're just strange. I think I'm offended. The half-grin slid into a smile. You're going to need to get used to sensing demons. I wasn't joking when I said they're everywhere here, especially the lower ones like fiends. By the way, this entire conversation is happening while he's pinned her down on one of those blue mats in the middle of training. Just, regular coffee table conversation. Oh, hey, why aren't you killing demons? And by the way, why are you still on top of me? Like, they're acting as if this is, like, completely normal. Again, that kind of, like, forced chemistry nonchalance is kind of like, I'm so over it. And this page right here, page 277, this is a page where it really confirmed my suspicions that this is just a supernatural fanfic. Because Zane drives an Impala. And Trinity name drops supernatural. Are we being honest and true to ourselves, Jennifer? Do we have to be this obvious? Now, I found myself in the garage staring at a black, sleek Chevy Impala parked next to some kind of fast-looking motorcycle, trying desperately not to think about the fact that Zane had seen me in my underwear. I was impressed as I eyed the Impala, having not seen one this vintage in person before. Are you a Supernatural fan? I asked. Zane stepped around me and opened the passenger door. Not until recently. Had the car before I was introduced to the world of the Winchesters. Jennifer, please. Jennifer, I know. I have been sucked into Supernatural too. I have so much Destiel going on in my head. But do we have to be this obvious? In the Impala, Zane decides to take Trinity to some of his friends, which are, surprise, demons. So he really does work with demons. Like, actual, literal, genuine demons. So, long story short, because there's kind of like a lot of freaking out about it, they have a demon broker friend called Cayman. Roth, who I mentioned before is Astaroth from the author's first series, the literal actual crown prince of hell. And then Zane's like ex-situationship, like girlfriend that, spoiler, he still loves. It's Layla. Which is so, I feel like, unnecessary, kind of. If Layla had the entire last series to herself with Roth and they got their happily ever after, they're living their best life, why are we bringing her into Zane's story where he's supposed to get his good ending? You know what I mean? At this point, when I was reading the book, I didn't know that, like, Layla had her own, like, book series, so I thought, like, oh, this is the half-demon, right? Oh, yeah, this makes sense. No, yeah. And then I thought about it more, and I'm like, why would you bring her back? Just to make Trinity, like, jealous? Just for conflict? And, like, here's the thing. Narratively, it's okay that Trinity is, like, a bad person, or, like, annoying and childish and immature, because it helps the characters conflict about something. It helps move the plot along, and it helps her, most importantly, grow. We see her character change. She gets some, development. Trinity never changes. Layla is solely here just to make her feel inferior and to be jealous and self-conscious. Because, of course, Layla's the last story's YN, which means that she's so beautiful and her hair is so pretty and she's this and she's that and she can, like, see into Trinity's soul, which is, like, super special soul because it's, like, half black, half white. It's like, what? But you're an angel? It's this whole thing that doesn't really matter still. So, chapter 22. The first page of this, the first sentence, is, like, suddenly in a different, like, tense, which I don't understand because this is all written in, like, first person, We are Trinity in her point of view. So she says, I asked, I did this. But, like, suddenly the first sentence is, like, holy canola oil. Zane brought her to see the crown prince of hell? We're talking about Trinity here. Why are we suddenly calling Trinity her? Wouldn't it be Zane brought me? It doesn't, like, editor, excuse me, editor. Oh, right, I forgot to mention, because I also forgot when I was reading this. So Zane brought Trinity to these demons to help look for Misha. He thinks that these demons will be able to track down Baal, who is a demon, obviously, and, like, somehow related to Astaroth, or they call him Roth, which is, like, the stupidest nickname. So if you're keeping track, a demon kidnapped a warden from a half-angel, and now we're asking a warden's demon friends to help. Whatever. Zane was suddenly in front of me, blocking me completely. I came to you for help, Roth. You brought that into my house with Layla here? Roth repeated. Are you out of your mind? Okay, Cayman said from somewhere behind them. I am so curious as to what is going on here. Zane ignored Cayman as I peeked out from behind him. I know what she is. She knows what she is, but she's no threat to you. We're here because we need your help. Okay, I'm not waiting any longer, because I swear I hear Zane's voice and that, the female who's probably in the kitchen announced. Roth shouted something before blinking out of existence in front of us. I gasped as he reappeared on the other side of the couch, just as Zane stiffened behind me. Whoa. I gasped as he reappeared on the other side of the couch, just as Zane stiffened beside me, so much that I thought he'd shifted. The moment I saw her, I couldn't look away. She was beautiful in an unreal, ethereal sort of way, and if I hadn't known what I was and what she was, I would have thought she was a trueborn. With her long, white blonde hair and big, pale blue eyes, she looked like she had more angel blood in her than I did, but I knew what she was. She was half demon, half warden, and she had no angelic blood in her. Zane, she spoke, a smile racing across her face. I'm so happy to see you. It's been way too long. Yeah, it has been. His voice was gruff, strangely so. Trinity, this is Layla. We, grew up together. Her name is Trinity. Roth sounded like he choked, and I ignored that as I focused on someone who was just as rare as I was. Oh no, Trinity is not super special anymore. The thing about these kinds of, YA/YN books is that the main character has to be, like I said, super special, but also super normal, Trinity has these angelic powers, but she's still plagued with being human. She has all the icky emotions like jealousy and anger and envy and all that stuff. When she meets another YN from the previous story who also had to be super special and super pretty, except her story is finished now, she has the character development. She's comfortable in herself. So it's kind of like two YNs staring at each other, and it's like, wow, two Barbie dolls next to each other, except one is from the cool 2000s-ish, the My Scene kind of dolls, then versus 2025 Barbie with her plastic smile. Nothing really happens except for Zane and Trinity asking, hey, can you help us with Misha? And they said, yeah. That's it. We just kind of get this tenseness between Trinity, Zane, and Layla, which it surprisingly lasts a long time. Because, again, we need Trinity to be jealous for some reason or another, because at this point, I was feeling no chemistry between Zane and Trinity. None at all. And it felt extremely forced how much Trinity hated Layla. I'm not gonna read most of the passages, but it's just she constantly talks down on herself, and she's always oh my god, Zane probably loves her, this is the girl, blah, blah. It's yeah, that's true. Zane does still love her. That is explicitly stated in this book. And Layla still loves Zane, even though she's with Roth. It's just she just loves Roth more. Which is not... I don't like that. I'm so sorry. I really don't like that at all. What do you mean? There's it's not a love triangle. It's a love angle. Layla's here, then it's Zane, and then Roth is there. They both love her, and she loves both of them, but she just loves Roth more. That just seems so... Don't play with his feelings like that. What's wrong with you, Layla? You literally... I'm never gonna read the first series because this writing is getting on my nerves. But if I read the first entire series and she ends up with Roth and I'm great, it's closed. I pick up this series and this conflict is still going on. In 2019, it's over. It's over. Chapter 23. Almost nothing special happens here. They go patrolling and they get attacked by these big demon thingies, which they kill. Somehow they extrapolate that Ball knows that Trinity is here in DC by these demons, which we heard that demons are always around in DC, but these two specific demons that came after them knew what she was, and it's yeah, Ball is here. Chapter 24. I found another typo. There's a lot of those. My stomach grumbled as I saw Zane at the stovetop. His hair was pulled back at the nape of his neck. I didn't realize until that very moment that I did appreciate a well-done man bun. Number 1, no comment on the man bun thing. That was so 2016, both laughing at it and having a man bun. Now, who cares, right? Second, editor, I hate to keep pointing it out, right? As I'm reading some of these passages, I'm finding new grammatical errors, and it's did honestly nobody edit this book? This came out in 2019. Do you not have I don't know, autocorrect or Grammarly. So we get some more fan service in this chapter, which is like after their fight with the two demons, Trinity has this like huge bruise on her back, so she has to like take off her shirt, and Zane puts like a cream on her back. This whole time, Trinity is like frothing at the mouth, drooling over Zane, and Zane is like showing little to no interest in Trinity back. This is not like mutual. Like, she's like thinking, she's like, oh my god, what if I drop this towel that was like covering me and he'd have to look at me? Like, she's like fantasizing and daydreaming, like as he's like putting a cream on her back like a normal person. So nothing comes of that chapter. Chapter 25. Again, this chapter is completely useless. It really doesn't add anything. Trinity and Zane meet Roth in some diner, and he tells them that Ball probably got a mind control spell from a witch to control the people that attacked them at the Accolade. And then there's more general tension between Trinity and Zane. Nothing comes of it. So, chapter 26. Trinity has a nightmare, and Zane comes into the room and is like, oh my god, you poor thing. And then again, page 350. So only like 2 chapters, and then there's already another grammar issue. Anyway, I used to go see a doctor in Morgantown for something I couldn't get treatment for. They're talking about her eye condition here, which I will get to in a bit because I haven't talked about it in like detail yet because Trinity hasn't either. This whole book, we can assume that she has some kind of disease or some kind of disability going on with her eyes where she can't see well, but like it's never explained until a very like big chunk of the way through. And I don't know if it's just like me nitpicking, but I used with a D at the end. This, I don't know if this is like an Oxford comma situation where it's like both tenses is applicable. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Use the right tense, Jennifer, please. So nothing comes of this chapter, even though they're both literally laying in bed together. It's kind of cute. It's boring too. They just fall asleep. Chapter 27. Again, I'm kind of speeding through this because genuinely nothing is happening in these chapters. It's like one thing happens and then we get more boring exposition throughout the rest of like the 5 to 7 pages. It's like around 10 pages per chapter, which is like fine. It's serviceable, but there's no point in having a whole chapter dedicated to one piece of information. So they go and they meet the guys at the DC base, Nikolai and the other one I forgot about. They meet some people who don't matter, like their wives, their children, and they find out that Ball has been spotted in Franklin Square. Chapter 28, something actually interesting. So Trinity and Zane are on a roof overlooking Franklin Square, and while they're waiting for, like, anything to happen, we finally get some Trinity lore. What is up with your fascination with stars? Worrying my lower lip, I glanced back at him, and I lifted my gaze to the sky. Can you see the stars, right now? He didn't answer immediately, and I imagined it was because it wasn't a question he'd been expecting. Yes, why? Because God has a messed up sense of humor? I exhaled heavily, about to talk about something that I talked about even less than I did my mother's death. I didn't want to, but I had gotten Zane to open up just a little, so maybe it was my turn. My father is an angel, an archangel, Zane. One so powerful and so scary to most people that I don't even like to say his name. His blood pumps through me, his DNA, but so does my mother's, and that of her family. Come to find out, they don't have the best genetics, and some of those flawed genetics made it through the mix. What do you mean? I have what's called retinitis pigmentosa, and no, don't ask me to spell that. I'm probably not even pronouncing it correctly. It's a degenerative eye disease that usually ends in partial or total blindness. It's usually hereditary, but sometimes people can just develop it. A great-grandmother of mine had it, and it skipped a couple of generations, and I ended up the lucky winner of the crappy eyesight. I have little side vision. If I look forward, I can't even see you. You're nothing but a blob of shadows. It's like having horse blinders on. And my depth perception is pretty terrible. Finally, we're almost 400 pages into this 500-page book, and we finally understand why Trinity is, like, written this way. And while it is interesting, and I do think that Jennifer, the author, does have this condition as well, sometimes it reads as if Trinity doesn't have it. Like, sometimes, some chapters she can see, like, little to nothing, only just blobs, no matter what the lighting is. And other times it's like, she's just, like, living her life normally. Which, I don't have this condition, I just have, like, regular bad eyesight. But even then, it's not like, for me, it fluctuates on a daily basis like that. I'm just speaking from my own experience, but this is kind of like an on-again, off-again kind of characterization, where sometimes it matters a lot that she can't see, other times it doesn't. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if, like, you just assume that she had regular bad eyesight, and that's it. And again, as if Trinity couldn't be, like, extra super special, her father isn't just an angel, he's an archangel. And I want you to place your bets. If you've watched Supernatural, I'm 100% sure you can guess who this archangel is, like, right now. But, like, place your bets on which archangel is, because, oh my god. And also, Trinity's whole thing about the sky is that, like, her, like, therapist, question mark, said, like, if you look up and you still have your eyesight, you can see the stars because it's, like, free to see them or whatever. And this is literally giving Twilight's, without the dark, we wouldn't be able to see the stars, which is, like, peak YA. But this can't be peak YA because this is 2019. Like, this should have been left in the trenches of 2012, which I think that the first series was, so why in the world would you continue it like this, Jennifer? So this next page just kind of, like, rubs me the wrong way. I can't really describe it. It's just kind of corny to me, and it just seems kind of, I don't know, I'll read it out and you tell me what you think. I don't think it's strength. He pulled my hand away from his hair. Trin. Flushing at the first use of my nickname and realizing I liked it when he called me that, I turned my gaze back to the 2 stars that were really one. What I mean is, I don't think it's being strong. I can't change what's going to happen. Maybe one day there will be a cure and it will work for me. But until then, I have to accept this and I can't dwell on it, because it is scary. It's scary as hell to really think that all of this will be gone and I'll have to learn to live differently with the expectations of who I am and what I am, but I have to deal with it. And I do so by not letting it define me or consume every waking moment of my life. That's not strength. That doesn't make me special. I shrugged. It just means I'm doing the best I can. Still holding my hand, he squeezed. Like I said, the definition of strength. I don't know how to feel about this. This does get explored a little bit in the second book. Not really in the best of ways, but there's just something about, I understand what this is basically the author speaking through Trinity to us about this condition. And it's like, I understand, like, for me, my eyes are like -4 on each side. Like, without my glasses, I see nothing at all. And it's not really brave for me to, like, live my life without my glasses. It's just how I live my life. So I see where she's going with that. The entire time, you've been calling yourself special, Trinity. I guess having this condition doesn't make you special, but also kind of it does, because it's a rare condition. I guess special is, like, the wrong word, because it's, like, positively aligned. This entire book, she's been playing, like, I'm the best, I'm the strongest, and all of a sudden, she's playing humble, oh, I'm not special, I'm just, like, doing my best. Have I not been reading pages about how many times you said that you're special, joking or not? Like, after 4 times, it's not cute or funny anymore. You've been calling yourself special. Don't act humble. So after this heartwarming conversation, you know, you're expecting maybe tears, a hug. No, they get hot and bothered. And Zane pins her against, like, this, like, they're on a roof, right? So it's like there's no wall, but somehow he finds a wall. He creates a wall and he pins her against it. They're, like, grinding and kissing and sucking at each other. It's like this whole, like, tension. It, like, peaks, and then surprise, they get attacked by imps because this book hates you. For 400 pages, Jennifer has been like, oh my god, will they, won't they? We know that they will, but it's like, will they, won't they? Oh my god, what's happening? And then here you go, but then never mind. Jennifer, you're playing with my emotions, and I am so tired. So, chapter 29. A lot of things happen really fast, so I'm just gonna kind of speed through because this is a heavy chapter. Trinity wakes up in the middle of the night after they had gotten home to see that the bathroom door is, like, open and the lights on, and she sees that Zane is, like, fiddling around with something. It turns out, from the imps that attacked them, like, a couple hours ago, one of the imp's claws got stuck in his chest, and so he's trying to, like, pull it out with, like, tweezers. Trinity calls him a stupid alpha male, and then helps him take it out, and he's like, can you even see, girl? And she's like, even though I literally just told you that it's, like, really difficult for me to see and focus on things, that's rude. It's like, okay, Trinity. Okay, so a lot happens really fast, so I'm just gonna, like, breeze through it. There's something I should tell you. What? My gaze searched his face as I drew my fingers over the curve of his cheek. He turned his chin, kissing my fingertips. I've never done this before. My fingers stilled, my entire body stilled as his words sunk through me. You mean you haven't done this before? So, Zayn tells Trinity, hey, I never done this before. I'm as pure as a little cherub. And she's like, oh my god, me too. So they're like super special together, you know? So somehow they like teleport to the bed, which is like I said, he's a character AI bot, so he can like spawn beds out of nowhere. I've been calling this book like a YA book because I think it is. But this scene, it doesn't fade to black. And not that it's like explicit, but it's like explicit enough to be like, oh my god, is this allowed in a YA book? Like 13-year-olds are reading this, Jennifer. What is going on? So I'm just gonna like put this up on screen really quick so you can just like see what I mean. But this is like, there is no fade to black. They follow through with like everything. And I'm like, and again, I'm not like a prude. I'm like, okay, you go do what you gotta do, Trinity. Even though there was all this tension building up and like, oh my god, we're kissing, or oh my god, what if he likes me? I thought it would like end at that, but like, oh my god. Also, at this point, they only know each other for like less than a month, maybe a couple weeks. Now we fade to black. They go to sleep. Chapter 30, 400 pages in. So Trinity and Zayn go to Bethesda, which I thought was just a game company, but okay. To meet with the Witches' Coven, if you even remembered that, like, somehow sold Ball, like, a hypnotism spell, but Roth and Layla come with, because obviously. And considering what happened, like, literally last chapter with Zayn and Trinity, why are we still bringing Layla here? I think that Jennifer is trying to, like, make us juxtapose between Trinity and Layla. Wow, they're, like, fighting against each other or something, but they're really not. They're not rivals. Like, Layla never gets a lot of like actual scenes with Zayn. It's always like the four of them, or at least the three of them together. So I don't know why we're still making her seem like a competitor, because she also has Roth. Like, Roth is very much like in love with her. He kisses her all the time, and you know, Trinity's like, I wish that was me, which, shut up, Trinity. So Roth goes inside of the Witches' Coven with Trinity, which leaves Zayn and Layla outside alone together, because why not? So long story short, a human senator, which tracks, went to the Witches' Coven to get a spell from the witches, and he promised pieces of a trueborn in exchange for the spell. So obviously they pieced together that, oh, Ball somehow hypnotized the senator and then made him do his bidding. And then the pieces of the trueborn in exchange kind of really tips them off. They're like, oh, because Misha is still alive. Trinity would have felt it if Misha had died. So Misha is still alive, and Ball is like kind of trying to lure Trinity in with Misha so that he can get these pieces of a trueborn to pay back the Witches' Coven. So of course, our genius quartet decide to go to the senator's house just like that. This is the part of the book where Roth tells Trinity that Zayn still loves Layla, which is a really odd choice to put it here in the book, especially after last chapter. It kind of feels like Jennifer's trying to do like a gotcha moment where it's like, you thought they could be safe and secure in their relationship, but no, let me add some jealousy and insecurity in here. It's like, Jennifer, that's not really... Layla already has Roth. We have been seeing that they're really happy together, actually. They have a very lovely relationship. But for some reason, we still have to make Trinity really super jealous, and Zayn has to have lingering feeling, which this takes place 6 months after the last book series, which means that, you know, after loving Layla for 10 years and then fooling around with her best friend, 6 months later, he already, like, almost went all the way with a random girl he met, like, a month ago. Zayn, you gotta... Come on, get your priorities straight, dude. I can't imagine that kind of love, you know, loving someone for years and years and years has faded that quickly. A tiny fissure opened in my chest, proving to me just how much I'd come to like Zayn, how much I liked him without even realizing it. Why should that be so surprising? Maybe it wasn't love, but it was definitely something that was potent and powerful and could be hurt, because whatever it was hurting right now. Tipping his head back against the wall, Roth let out a sigh. You like him, don't you? He probably likes you too. He liked Stacy. I blinked. Who is Stacy? Layla's best friend. He tilted his head towards me. She and Zayn were pretty close after, well, everything that had happened between him and Layla. They weren't together. Well, I mean, I try not to get up in their personal business, but I think they were just distracting one another. From what? From their grief, he answered. There's a lot you don't know, Trinity. Like you don't know that the reason Layla's clan attacked and nearly killed her was because Zayn kissed her and she took a piece of his soul. Man, I don't know what to think about this. So, after they leave the coven, Zayn and Trinity drive home. This was a really poor choice on Trinity's part, because she cannot zip her howling screamer for even a second. It is like in her angelic duty to yap. He even told me about some girl named Stacy, and that I cut myself off before I said any more. He told me enough. Jesus, Zane muttered. Why even ask me what I feel or think when he seems to have laid all my business out for you? Oh yeah, like you've been entirely forthcoming with information any time I asked you about Layla, I snapped, anger replacing the sting of hurt. I latched onto it. Anger was better, easier to deal with. You failed to mention last night, when you were listing all the reasons why we shouldn't do what we did, that the most important one was that you were still in love with someone you can't have. I didn't realize you and I were going that deep, he shot back, and my head swiveled in his direction. My lips parted on a sharp inhale that went nowhere as the burning sting returned, sharper than before. Yeah, Zane, you're just digging yourself into a hole here. And I really hate to say it, but kind of Trinity is right. Every time she brought up Layla, he'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. Which, if you remember the passage that I read before, that's like, oh, you can't ask me why I'm not clan leader, but I can ask you how your mother died. It's like, cognitive dissonance, Zane, come on. They're both really stupid in this argument. So then we kind of get some, like, lore catch-up. I'm assuming that all this happened in the first book series. I didn't really mind getting this lore dump because I have no idea what's going on. But I assume that someone who read the first series would, like... I don't know if this is a good context for the first series, because reading this now is like, this just seems like a mess. Long story short, they liked each other, and they couldn't kiss because the way that Layla's powers manifested in her made her take a piece of the person's soul. So, Roth had this, like, snake familiar on his arm, which, if Layla held it, she'd be able to kiss anyone without taking their soul, which is kind of like a weird cuck situation, because it's like, hey, Roth, can I use your snake? And I know you really like me, and you're, like my half-boyfriend, but I want to kiss my other half-boyfriend that I've known for, 10 years, so can you hand me your snake so I can kiss him? It's like this weird, whatever. One day, she didn't have the snake, and took a little teensy bit of Zane's soul, and that's how he became the way he is. If this book needed to, retitle itself, I would just call it Adjectives, the book. Tells you everything, because this one page was so difficult to read for me, because it's like my brain was trying to connect these dots and these lines. It's like, my brain cannot function like this. I can't read a book that's just listing things. No, I studied his profile, unsure of how I felt after hearing all of this. That was 7 months ago, not 6, and I didn't know how long it took to get over a broken heart. I don't know what to say right now. That was true, because knowing this helped understand, but it didn't ease the ache in my chest, or the simmer of jealousy in my gut, because I wanted what Zane felt for Layla, for him to feel that for me. How could Layla not have chosen Zane? He was loyal and kind. He was smart and funny. He was strong and protective. He was the good guy with a very wicked side, if last night was any indication. Zane wasn't perfect, but he was close. Like a recipe. Smart, kind, funny, strong, loyal. It's like, we get it. You read someone's, character archetype and just slammed all those adjectives in there, even though we don't really see any of this. Zane really isn't funny. He is not really kind or mean. He's just lukewarm. He's just a person. He's a cardboard cutout of the perfect archetype of book talk man. And just slap whatever you want on him. It'll stick, because there's no personality there to speak of. Anyways, during this argument, which is inexplicably happening, in the car or something, Zane is doubting his feelings for Layla, a little bit, because he's like, I don't regret what we had, Trinity. And Trinity's like, how do you know that? It's like, because what I feel for you is different than what I feel for Layla. And it's like, make a polycule, come on. Anyways, this argument ends up literally nothing. They end up lukewarm, and they go to sleep. So, chapter 32. They just kind of decide to go to the senator's house today. Nothing really special to talk about. They just oh yeah, let's just go break into his house. And they basically just walk in, it's empty. They just drive up and, break the door handles. Great stealth, guys. Oh, and this is a really funny passage to me. The illustrious senator is involved in a lot of charities that benefit at-risk youth, goes to church every Sunday, comes from a long line of Baptist pastors, married once to his high school sweetheart, who passed away from breast cancer 2 years ago. Since then, he's also been involved in healthcare reform and women's services. The corner of my lips turned down. Why would you think he'd be the first person? Because it's always the last ones you suspect, in my experience. The ones who hide their dark souls rather than show the world what an awful person they are. he replied, and I shook my head. And the fact that even though he's involved with all these good works, he voted down every reform or bill that would have actually helped the people in need. Oh, well, that last part kind of sealed the deal. Politics. You know, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm a poli-sci major, so, like, reading this, I was like, okay, Jennifer, I see what you're talking about. Go off, girl. So, while they're in the senator's office, they find, like, blueprints just out there sitting in the open on his desk about some super secret school plan jail thing, and everyone's like, what's going on here? And then Trinity gets a tingle. She's like, oh my god, there's demons here. There's a lot of demons here. So they have to fight. There were dozens, some tall and some small. Some walked, others crawled. There were even some in the air. I'd never seen so many demons in one place. I turned to Zane. I thought you said there weren't a lot of demons around? Yeah, he drawled the word out. There weren't. I think they're all here now, Roth said as he glanced to Layla. If things go south, I want you out of here. Go home to Cayman. Are you high? Layla demanded. If things go south, I'm going to kick some butt. Layla shifted then, drawing my attention, and I didn't understand what I saw. She looked like she normally did, except she had wings. Black, feathered wings. Feathers. You have feathered wings, I said dumbly. I do. Layla's left wing twitched as she grinned at me. It's a long story, but the gist of it is that I almost died, and well, this is what happens now when I shift. I stared at her. You look like an angel, if an angel had black wings. I'm no angel, she lifted her shoulder. I'm just unique. That you are, babe. So we get this, like, gratuitous, wow, Layla is so cool thing. I think this is just, like, fan service for people who read the first book, and that they, like, you know, identified stronger with Layla than Trinity, because this is just so, wow, you're so super cool, Layla. It's like, wow, thank you, Trinity, you're so super cool. And they're like, what? We're so super cool together. That's exactly how this is reading to me. Anyways, this is completely false. Layla almost immediately gets hurt by the demons and gets taken out of commission. Like, she's literally, like, the first one who gets hit and, like, flops on the ground. She does little to nothing in the entire demon fight. The epitome of this book. It tells you all these things that are just patently untrue, because what we actually see is the complete opposite. Boring battle scene later. There's this really annoying demon called Aim, A-Y-M, Aim, who's, like, I can tell is trying to be, like, that kind of, like, funny, goofy, morally gray kind of, like, evil guy. Like, ha ha ha, tee hee hee, look how evil I am. It's not. It's corny. Why, Jennifer? Why? Next chapter, we're still fighting. So Layla gets KO'd literally almost immediately, and Roth just, like, runs away with Layla. It's like, you guys are on your own. So, and then Aim has, like, fire magic. So Zane gets crispy fried. But, like, Trinity is, like, super cool. She's like, wow, killing all these demons. And it's like, what? She's so cool. But then, what? Misha shows up. I'm sorry if this sounds so condescending, but it's true. That's exactly how this is, like, read to me, is that this is, like, so self-congratulatory and so, like, oh my god, look how cool I am. I'm, like, I kill, like, a bajillion demons. Like, I'm, like, a trueborn. Don't you get it? I'm a trueborn. So Misha shows up immediately next chapter. If you notice that these chapters are getting a lot shorter, it's because they are. Like, one thing happens in the chapter, and then leave it on a lukewarm cliffhanger, immediate next chapter, which ruins the reveal every single time, because it's like, if your chapter is 5 pages long, and you leave it on a cliffhanger, and then you immediately resolve that cliffhanger the next chapter, which is also, like, 5 pages long, it completely cuts all the momentum. This is a twist and no one saw coming. Misha's actually evil. What? He's working with the demons. Trinity kills Aim because he was a filler character, and suddenly Misha is, like, this cartoonishly evil supervillain that absolutely does not make any sense at all. This isn't, like, surprising in, like, a, what? I never saw this coming. This is, like, a, what? kind of way. It honestly makes no sense. I don't understand. I stayed kneeling beside Zane as I lifted my other hand, pressing my palm to my chest, fighting the urge to run to Misha, to throw myself at him, and to touch him, to hold him, because I didn't understand this. How did you escape? Escape? He towed Aim's ashes in his boot, smirking. And that's what he said you'd think. Who? Aim? Misha laughed. Not that idiot. God, whoever told us that demons were intelligent and conniving obviously hadn't met half of them. What's going on, Misha? Did you escape? But if that was the case, why hadn't he helped me or Zane? What am I doing here? He asked, spreading his hands. I have a better question to ask. Did you really think you were the only special one? What? He mocked, tilting his head. You did, didn't you? This whole time, you always believed you were this chosen one, the true-born who would someday be called upon, and I was a protector, your faithful shadow trailing behind you. You tell her. Misha is so real for this. Except not really, because he's mad that Trinity is the only special one. He's still, like, directly, but also, like, indirectly calling her super special, and he was jealous of how special she was. Like, that's exactly what he just said. He was mad that he's just a protector, which I don't think that's how that works. I mean, okay. He was young when he was bonded to Trinity. Think of like a fantasy knight kind of story, or like a fanfic AU. The knight knows that they are expendable. They know that they will give their life for whoever the royalty they're protecting is. Misha should know what a protector is about. Why? This does get explained a little bit later on. It doesn't make sense at all. For the first 1/4 of the book, Misha has honestly been nothing but nice to Trinity. Like, if you remember, he would, like, hug her and tell her it's okay. They would sit together. They would talk. Like, honestly, there was no malicious intent anywhere, which does not make a good twist, Jennifer. Just because it came out of nowhere doesn't make it a good twist. Foreshadowing is there for a reason. You're supposed to, foreshadow the twist so you can think, aha, that makes a lot of sense. We've constantly seen Misha be nice to Trinity, help her, be concerned over her well-being. This is not only out of character, it just simply doesn't even make sense in the story. All it takes to break the bond is a protector killing an innocent, Misha said. I'm not going to kill you, Trinity. Not now. But eventually, I'm going to have to break this bond because you are going to die. Misha, this isn't you. You don't talk about killing innocent people, killing anyone like it's nothing. This isn't you. I don't think it's nothing, he admitted, a muscle clenching. But I have to do it. He showed me the way. He taught me everything when he chose me. He showed me how to keep it hidden, and it worked. I've been planning this for years. Who do you think was behind Riker? He never came to the training rooms before, and he did the one time you decided to show your grace. He chuckled upon seeing the horror drawing on my face. Who do you think goaded him into this fear and anger? Who do you think pulled those strings? No. Yes. No, I whispered. No, you couldn't have. He killed my mom. He killed her. She had to go, he spat. I stiffened at the loathing that dripped from every word he spoke. She was figuring out that Terry had made a mistake. You never saw it, but then again, I'm not surprised. It had always been about you, about what life you didn't have, about how you were bored, or how you were lonely, or how you'd never find anyone if you stayed. So this argument, where Trinity is selfish, we see it a lot in the first book and the second book. And it's true, except it's always framed as if it's wrong. It's always the bad one, the person on the wrong side saying this, even though it's factually correct. Trinity only thinks about herself. She never thinks about what her actions or what her words would do to anyone else. Which, again, like I said, it's okay if a character is like that in the beginning, because the point is that they grow, they develop their character, they become more than a one-dimensional piece of paper. Trinity doesn't do that. Trinity continues to be selfish and immature, and she never learns from her mistakes. As much as I hate to say it, I really do agree with Misha here. Like, he's spitting some real facts. So the thing about Riker is, like, I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but Riker was a warden within Trinity's, like, safe haven. And, of course, no one knew that Trinity was a trueborn. But one day in the training rooms, while she was training with Misha, she accidentally let her grace, like, manifest a little bit. And Riker saw. So he thought that Trinity would end up being, like, a danger to everyone, which, again, at this point in the book, is never explained. This is explained in the second book for one paragraph. So the whole book, you're thinking, what was his problem? Why did he kill her mother? So Riker ended up, like, rallying a whole bunch of wardens, but Terry and Matthew ended up stopping it. But then one day when Trinity was out with her mother, they got stopped by Riker, and he killed her mother. And then, spoiler but not really, Trinity ends up killing Riker. Like, while I think she was, like, 17? Like, 16, 17? She just, like, straight up killed him. Right there. After he had killed her mother. This is never, like, brought up again other than to, like, pity Trinity. But again, She has been killing things indiscriminately throughout this entire book without a single care in the world. And then, in what is probably the most anticlimactic climax in any piece of media I've ever seen, Trinity just kills Misha. Just straight up. Just straight up. I was nothing more than storm and fury as I stepped forward, and Misha looked up at me. He rose. "I love you," I said, and Misha's eyes widened. There was a flicker of surprise, almost as if he couldn't believe I was going to do it. And for a brief second, I didn't know what he wanted from me, what he expected. Didn't he know me at all? Didn't he know there was no way I'd let him kill Zane? That I'd let him take me? Why didn't he realize that? Misha reached for me, but I lifted the sword high and it spit white fire. Screaming filled my ears, drowning out everything around me and in me, and a distant part of me realized it was me making those sounds. It was me wailing as I swung the sword down on Misha. Okay, a couple things. Number one, how would he know that she wouldn't let him kill Zane? Like, from the beginning, he said, don't trust Zane, which you would think is, oh, that's foreshadowing because he knew the real truth. He didn't. He really didn't. Is it just like, oh, like, she wouldn't let him kill an innocent person, quote-unquote innocent person, because Zane is like Kentucky Fried Chicken over there. But it's like, she's saying this as if it's like obvious that she likes Zane. How would this be obvious? Not only has he been gone for the entire book, she was supposed to be looking for Misha. That's why they met with Roth and Layla. She went to DC to look for Misha. And I'm not even exaggerating. They probably looked for him once. I forgot that they were looking for Misha. I forgot why she was in DC other than to be with Zane. The book forgets that she's supposed to be looking for Misha. Instead, it just goes to, oh, we're going to look for Baal because he's a demon. We completely forget that Misha is even there and bonded to her. Second of all, she kills him and she's like, oh my god, I don't feel the bond anymore. I feel so empty. But it's like, before she went to DC, she was talking to Terry and Matthew about how, oh, I can feel him still. He's still alive. You know, if he was getting hurt, I would feel it. And kind of the whole book, she's not been, like, inexplicably getting, like, twinges of pain, you know, like, because you would assume that Misha's getting, like, tortured or something of the sort. She's just not. And so she kills Misha, and she feels nothing. So it's like this whole time, the bond meant nothing, like, at all. And they were bonded together, but it meant absolutely nothing. Hi, it's me again. So, side note, I just wanted to quickly add something that I think I forgot to mention in the actual video. So, if you remember the attack at the Accolade way in the beginning where there was, like, demons and guns and humans, apparently that was all set up by Misha, even though he was literally there with Trinity, making sure Jada was safe and Ty was safe and all that. Apparently he had orchestrated that with Baal. And also, the fact that the humans had the same, like, baby doll masks as Clay was just a red herring that he did to, like, make sure no one was suspicious of him. But at this point in the book, we didn't, like, suspect anyone at all. We didn't actually know what was happening. This was before we even knew that Baal had been there. Like, rereading this book doesn't, like, open up any what moments or, like, aha moments. Like, things that, like, stick out that, like, in hindsight, you understand to be, like, set up for a later plot point. It just seems even more confusing knowing the twist now, because, like, the context of some scenes are just completely changed arbitrarily that it honestly doesn't make any sense. A good book will set up these things in a way that you remember, but, like, it doesn't seem important until the grand reveal and you realize all the breadcrumbs that have been laid along the way. This is just nonsensical, so just want to put that out there. Back to the video. Anyways, next chapter. Misha's just dead. That's all. Trinity surprisingly moves on pretty quickly, at least in this book, but oh my god, does she whine in the second one. Oh my god. So now that Trinity's protector is dead, well, she needs a new one, and Zane over there is dying, but surprise, surprise, what do you know, who's coming but her father, the Archangel. And if you guessed Michael, you'd be right. Because, of course, it's Archangel Michael, because this is a supernatural fanfiction, and Trinity is basically Dean Winchester, but, like, OC version, and she's, like, the Sword of Michael, aka the Vessel of Michael, which is so... He stood in the center of the driveway, his long, widespread legs encased in leather, and his torso and chest shielded by golden battle armor. His arms were bare, and his skin put off a luminous glow that made it difficult to tell exactly what his skin tone was. His hair was fair, brushing his shoulders, and from what I could make out from his features, he looked no older than Nikolai, even though I knew he was ageless. The air stirred as his wings lifted behind him, white and feathered, stretching at least 10 feet on either side of him. Michael, my father, sure liked to make an entrance. What a waste, the Archangel said as he stared at what remained of Misha. I flinched at his words. This is an Archangel. This is Archangel Michael. Like, this is a really big deal in this world, at least. And he has the same wingspan as Zane, who is just like a normal warden. Like a 10-foot wingspan. Again, that's like massive, isn't it? That's like, imagine already like a 6-foot tall person is like massive, you know? So like having essentially, no, 2 of me, 1 of me stacked on top of another 1 of me. That's how big the wingspan is. Like, that's huge. And you're telling me just a normal warden has that exact same wingspan as Archangel Michael? Long story short, if you remember, Matthew and Terry were talking about some kind of mistake that they made. Apparently, years ago, Trinity was bonded to Misha, despite them not being the, quote, truly fated pair. Trinity and her mother were supposed to go up to DC so that Trinity and Zane would meet, because they were destined to be the true pair. But her mother inexplicably stayed with Terry for, like, no reason. Like, we're not given a reason. She just decided to stay with Terry. So instead of meeting Trinity, Zane met Layla and fell in love with Layla, and Trinity got Misha. So basically her mother, like, ruined everything from the beginning of the book. So even though Zane's kind of dying, Michael's just like, who cares? Like, heals him, and now Trinity and Zane are bonded together. Yippee! I understand at this point why she would be upset. Like, Misha just died, she got betrayed, you know, Zane is now her protector, but she's not mad at the fact that Zane is her protector. She's mad at the fact that the protector and the trueborn cannot be together because it's, like, against some kind of arbitrary celestial code. So it's like, she's not actually mad that, you know, if she dies, Zane dies too. She's mad at the fact that, oh, I can't kiss him because of vague rules that I kind of know. So, chapter ends, they're now bonded together. Hurrah. So, chapter 36, another typo. I'm so tired. Nothing happens in this chapter. They're just at home talking about what had happened. So Trinity and Zane end up going back to, like, Trinity's original home, where Matthew and Terry explained the whole mistake situation that I just explained. It's so... You would think that something so important wouldn't be treated so carelessly as to, like, oh, but you and Misha were getting along so well, so we thought that you were the fated pair. Girl, that's called friends. Why didn't you bond Jada and Trinity together? Oh, because they're friends. What? Not only was it explained sloppily in the book, I can tell that, like, the characters themselves are explaining it sloppily, because it's like, oh, we just assumed that this was how it's supposed to go, and it doesn't really matter. So it's explained that kind of, like, the bond between Trinity and Misha wasn't true, so it kind of corrupted Misha into thinking in a twisted way, which, why would it suddenly corrupt him, 10 years later, after they've been bonded for so long? Anyways, then they explain a whole lot of foreshadowing how, remember when Clay first attacked Trinity and somehow Zane just knew how to go outside at the right time and find Trinity? That's because it was the unspoken bond between them, drifting them together. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how forced chemistry this is. At no point does, like, Zane, like, reciprocate, like, fully, other than that, like, one pivotal chapter 29. Just suddenly all these, like, little things, like, it's literally, like, outlined. Page 497 and, like, onward is just, like, Jennifer going over, like, did you see this one too? Zane knew it subconsciously. How about this one? Bet you didn't think that meant anything. Like, she's literally just, like, going down a laundry list, like, patting herself on the back. That's like, look at all these great things that I had planned since the beginning that you never saw. It's like, Jennifer, we didn't see it because it wasn't planned well. I'm so sorry to say it. Anyways, and then Ball is kind of, like, essentially forgotten in this entire thing, even though, so it's the bond that twisted Misha, but then also it was Ball that twisted Misha, but he's, like, corrupted him. But he was corrupted already since the bond. But how long? You know, how long has Ball been, like, interacting with Misha? Presumably for a long time, because Misha said he'd been planning this for years, right? But only last year had Trinity's mother died. So it's like, he's been colluding with Ball this entire time and no one thought anything, even though Trinity literally has a built-in demon sensor. Like, 5 minutes before the demons even show up, she can sense a demon. So how is it that Misha was able to communicate with Ball this entire time without acting differently, talking differently, not being found out at all? And to make it worse, the people that were rallying with Riker against Trinity and her mother, they were all killed, basically. Like, that's not even subtle. They just said that they got rid of all of them. And it's like, Misha is literally her protector. They can, like, feel each other's feelings. And it's kind of explained that, oh, because it wasn't the real bond, they didn't really have that strong connection that a real bond or that a real pair would have. But that's not true, because we saw it in the first fourth of the book, where they would, like, feel each other's emotions or whatever. I am so tired. Anyways, suddenly there's a starred page break. Like, normally in this book, it's just like a empty 2 lines, then the next, like, time skip happens. But suddenly there's stars here, which is like a running trend in the other books. But this kind of startled me for some reason, because it's like, there's just a lot of odd editing / grammatical choices in this book, and suddenly having a starred page break in the last chapter it's just kind of jarring, because it's like, what are you doing, Jennifer? So Trinity's walking around in the woods back at home, and she breaks down crying by a treehouse because she's like, oh my god, Misha, blah blah blah. But then inexplicably Zane is there to hold her while she cries, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna be just fine. And that's it. That's the end of the book. That's the end of book 1. So I rated this book a 2 stars because I could really tell that there was potential there. Maybe once per chapter, I found some kind of interesting little tidbit or some lore thing that was like, oh, that's really interesting. I wonder what Jennifer's going to do with that. She did nothing. Nothing at all. Little to no character development, plot development, story development. We forget the majority of the story for a huge chunk, like almost the entire act 2 or like middle of the book. And then suddenly the story kicks in the last 150 pages at the end. This is the kind of book that would inspire me to create like my own story / like fanfic basically. And I have, because it's so interesting to research about angels and demons, but wardens were such an odd choice to me. You already have the good guys, the angels, and the trueborns, like Trinity. That's already a fine premise as it is. And then you have demons, like, okay. But then you add in gargoyles, like stone gargoyles that can like shift between human and gargoyle stone form. What's going on with that? Why is it that? I don't know. This was just the vibe of the book. As soon as I read the first page, I thought, I can't be normal about this. I need to tell someone about it. And my mother can only listen to so much. So I made this. If you still made it to the end of this, thank you so much for watching and listening to my rambling. I'm hoping to get the second one out sometime next week. So that's all. Bye.